YouTube and then start streaming on Twitch. Oh, probably should make sure we go and mute everything.
Can I just invite people right from here, Richard?
You should be able to. You should be able to. Here, let me. You should to come on in to come.
The invite. People are asking me, so I'm just like.
Oh yeah.
Because I sent them the. Excuse me. I sent them the old Zoom link. So it's not working. So they're asking me if there's another Zoom link, and I said yes. So.
Yes. Yep. There you go. You are co-host, so you should have the invite link. All of you should have access to the link. And I disabled waiting room, so everybody should just pop on in automatically. Let's make sure.
A lovely feature.
Oh, that thing irritated me because I didn't have the ding, ding, ding on. So I didn't know when people were actually coming in. And I got like 4 people in the waiting room, and I'm like, why isn't anybody coming on? And then I click over because I was doing stuff, trying to get everything where it needed to be. Okay. It says we should be live.
We are live. I'm watching it right now.
On Twitch or YouTube?
Oh, no, on YouTube.
Oh.
YouTube, we're live. We're good. We're going.
Good. We're live on Twitch too.
Nice.
Just got cool. And we got the LitCon Lounge background behind our video. So on Twitch, so there at least we have a little bit of color over there.
Yeah.
A little more appealing. Nice. Too bad we couldn't do it on YouTube.
Damn you, YouTube.
Yeah, right. Now that I actually, anyways, I didn't get a chance to fill you in exactly what had happened earlier. I actually had a major video card update from my NVIDIA GeForce. And so I believe that might have been the problem that I was having this morning. I was about 3 versions behind on my video card. So I think that is what helped fix it, because as soon as I went live this last time, I was able to pop right up on there pretty well.
Nice. We're going to be international here in a moment. A couple international people have asked me if they want to be hopped on. So.
All right. Well, come one, come all.
Please. Welcome to our world. It is a small one, but we are all here in the same world. So,
when we get someone from Antarctica, I'll be impressed.
What'd you say, Daryl? You're very faint.
When we get someone from Antarctica, I'll be impressed.
Ooh, that would be cool. I don't think I've ever had anybody from Antarctica. Have you, Richard? I don't think I've ever.
I'm trying to think. No, I don't remember us having anybody from.
That would be impressive.
New Zealand, Australia. I know we've had people.
Germany. I've had pretty much every European continent. I've had Israel. I've had Turkey. I've had Guam, Greece.
I think we had someone from Greenland one of the years.
Wow.
Which is as close to the North Pole, I think, as we'll get.
Well, I think Tim Bateson's a little bit closer to the North Pole than Greenland is.
Well, yeah, because he's in Alaska.
Yeah.
he's damn near touching it.
I mean, don't profess me for a geography major, but I would think Alaska's a little bit higher on the northern hemisphere than Greenland is. I could be wrong, and anybody who's out there in the chat, feel free to correct me. I don't care, but. I think he's in the middle of Alaska too, so that might not be as high, but I don't know. It might be perpendicular if you look at it. I bet the flat earthers believe it's perpendicular. I'm digging the hat, Daryl.
Thank you.
And I was going to mention something about the Funko Pops earlier, but
Oh yes, those things.
is
They're-
that how like look, I'm not making fun of you here, okay? I just want to be clear right off the bat because I have a very good friend who's also very much into this.
Yes.
But he displays it the exact same way that you do. Is that like part of the manual of Funko Pop owning? Is like people they get a manual and they say, okay, this is how you display Funko Pops.
I think it's so you can have the most possible displayed in front of you. Because if they're facing the other way, they take up more space width-wise.
Plus
This
they
way you can
stack,
get
which
more.
is
Yeah, this way I think you just see more than once, whereas you have to stack them deeper the other way. I think that's my reasoning.
I've never seen anybody do them any differently. Like I've never seen any. Obviously, you don't want to take them out of the box because they lose their value, right? But
Value.
I've never seen anybody like design. Oh, okay. Well, it's another. I guess that's another.
They stack nicer when they're in boxes.
Yeah, that's true too. Yeah, they don't stack very well if they're if
especially
they're
the
on
ones
top
that
of
are bobbleheads. The bobbleheads definitely not.
Yeah.
And only some of them are bobbleheads. So,
but yeah, I've never seen anybody like take them out of the box and like display them on it.
My sister's best friend doesn't like to be in the box because, according to her, they will suffocate.
Oh Jesus!
So
that's a special kind of person there. Anybody who has care for an inanimate object, I have mad respect for. As I tear up and get something in my eye. Yeah, I have mad respect for somebody who has that much care about the world. I'm not being sarcastic.
No. I think it's more her kid getting to her with that one.
Yeah. Jeez. Sorry.
Just to make you feel even weirder. That's not even half. I blame my sister. She bought me one like 3 years ago. So it's her fault.
Is it that addictive?
It wasn't at first, and then they started releasing some that really spoke to my childhood. So I was like, okay, well, I don't have action figures laying around anymore. So let me reconnect this part of my childhood. Oh, they made this from my childhood. Oh, they made this from my childhood. Oh, they made this, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
I don't generally collect the ones that are of real people.
That's really? Weird. Is that your rule?
That's my rule. I have a few exceptions, but that's my rule.
Now, is it real people or is it them as real people? Do you collect them as characters? Like, for example, you wouldn't collect Mark Hamill, but maybe you'd collect Luke Skywalker.
Yeah. If it's them appearing as themselves, like they have ones for a bunch of the rock stars that are out there.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, or they have one of Alex Trebek. Like I have one of Stan Lee, but that's his appearance in a movie.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So
which movie?
His appearance in First Avenger.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Nice.
So unfortunately, the problem
I love that he embraced the Alfred Hitchcockism.
The problem is for these especially is a lot of the conventions I go to are Comic Cons.
Yeah.
There's one that's really local to me. And most of the time I'm literally next to or across the hall directly from the guy who sells the Funkos. So I'm stuck all weekend looking at them. And if I decide to buy him when he's not around, he'll bring them to my door. So
that's hilarious.
It's there's a lot to deal with it. Me and my sister, we have quite a few.
Nice.
Sometimes it's very rare.
The other thing I don't like about The other thing I don't like about Zoom, Richard, is that I can't see the chat. I have to actually physically go into the YouTube video or Twitch to see the comments.
Right.
There are no comments yet.
Yeah, I get that, but I'm just
it's just Richard.
But yeah, so how, do you know the amount? How many you have?
I don't want to say a number.
Okay, all right.
It scares me.
Okay, I get that.
It
It's
was
like-
a
it's
really
like
low
back
number,
in-
and then one day I just went, "Oh wow, what happened?"
It's like back in the day of collecting comics, right? You never told anybody how much comics you had. You just told them the rare issues that you had,
See
right?
this filing cabinet over here.
Speak of the devil.
You see this box down here, or this filing cabinet over here.
What is your
I
most
still
valued?
have most of my comics from back in the
Yeah,
day.
what's your most valued comic?
I have a really old X-Men, like from way back. Not way back, but like early 80s. I have a really old Man Thing, which I don't remember ever buying. It just showed up one day. Like,
My brother has. I don't know if it's collectible or worth it now because I don't know the values of these things. I haven't.
Oh, the market dropped out completely.
Oh, did it?
Yeah.
Okay, so but the one that I think was going to be valuable at one point, so I kept it pristine and I kept it in the sleeve with the little back on it and everything.
Yeah.
And I gave it to my brother to look after. Was X Factor 1. So.
Oh. Yeah.
So if he still has that.
Yeah. I think this cabinet.
Ah, nice.
I got into a habit. I stopped buying them, and then I kept going to the comic shop because I wanted to complete any holes in the series.
Mm-hmm.
So if I bought a bunch, like after a series been around, I want to go back and get the rest. So mostly, when I do buy them once in a while now, it's because I'm trying to plug those little holes in the thing, just for my own sake. Because I like to be. I'm gonna make up this word right now. I'm a completionist.
You're a follow througher.
Yeah, well, this is also why I have so many of the Funkos. I actually only want like 2 from certain collections, and I'm like, well, they made 6 for that particular line, and I really want 2 of them, but it feels weird not having the whole set.
Right.
So it's like, okay, well, fine. Usually it's a more percentage. Like I have, there's 9 I want and 1 I don't, but I'll get the other one.
Yes.
Usually closer to that, but filling in the holes of things.
I'm being told there's another panel going on right now, Richard. Is that the case?
I thought there was one.
Yeah,
Yes.
9 o'clock. 9 o'clock. There is a
World building, right?
Oh, world building.
yes, it's one of the world building ones. I believe one of the
Yeah, the
fantasy
first world building one.
I had this question posed to me earlier when I was doing videos from people that I was doing recording with. They asked me, "Can you still sign up for these panels if you want to either be on them or watch them?"
Well, watching them, they're just more than welcome to just click on a link.
So it's over on litcon.org, basically.
Well, no, it should be on our LitCon Facebook page. The live feed, tonight's live feed at 9 p.m. is Fantasy World Building with a YA perspective for young adult authors. So
that's why I ignored it.
But yeah, if anyone is interested in joining in as just a viewer and just listening in and taking part in the chat, just go to our facebook.com/literature convention Facebook page, and they're more than welcome to and I'll slide that into chat so that you can share it with your conglomerates.
Cool.
And they're more than welcome. I don't know if I can share on a link on YouTube. A lot of times
I got it. I'll send it to people. I'm looking at it right now, so I'll send it out. I'll share the video. Actually, I think the video's there or about to be there. So yeah. I don't know, when you looked at naming this convention, did you look at the idea of LitCon? I'm curious.
When I first Googled it and came up with the idea, I literally found nothing. And about 2 to 3 months in, we started looking on social medias, and we found LitCon as in like mathematics stuff, engineering, banking and real estate, or some stuff like that. There's like a lawyers in international something technology con, so it's LIT. So, but like I said, when I first Googled it, I didn't come up with anything, and I didn't come up with anything on the website or anything.
I had a couple people ask me, "Is that the one? Is that the one in India, or there was also someone? There was another one somewhere in some weird location." I'm like, no, it's not.
But as far as for LitCon in literature, there's only two in existence that have anything that have for LitCon in it with literature, and that is us and one other one, and it's for kids. It's for younger teenagers and stuff like that. I think it's in like Georgia or something like that. I think I had found, and it's like Literature Con Youth or Youth LitCon or something like that.
Just so you know, your Twitch stream ended. It's not working right now.
Oh, that's awesome.
And you posted the link that you were going to give me in that chat.
Oh, here.
Too many chats.
There's too many chats.
It's
like having too many passwords.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, passwords.
That's what I love about my phone is like I use my thumbprint, which is the greatest fucking thing. Whoever created that, I want to kiss because that is just awesome.
It was a hyena.
What's that?
Yeah.
It was a hyena that invented it.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, you have to go kiss the hyena.
All right.
I think we're just gonna
I'm
stay.
cool with that. I don't care. I don't care if it's a great white shark. That entity made my life so much better.
Oh.
I'm not somebody who fears very easily, so it's not a big deal to me. So I've never been swimming with sharks, but I wouldn't be opposed to it. I think it would be kind of neat. But actually, technically, I have been swimming with sharks. I did work in Hollywood for a while, but
I'll pass.
Right? Trust me, it's much worse than it sounds. It's pretty awful.
But you survived.
Yeah, well, I ejected basically, but And the funny thing is like I could have probably stayed and gutted it out and made it work, but it was just eating my soul alive. And I value my soul a little bit, I know that's a weird thing to value when you're making money, but it does matter.
Yes, that it does.
I'm sitting here looking at the video. Hopefully they're going to go live soon because it's not doing anything. But
yeah, it's supposed to. It says this. Oh, I think you have to reload it.
Is that right? Let me try it.
Because if you click on it, I think it automatically brings it up.
Ah, there it is. Oh, cool. There you go. A.A. Warren, she's in Australia, everybody. It's a cool panel. A.F. Stewart, A.A. Warren, Julia Allen. That's a good panel.
Yeah, it's gonna be nice to check that out.
Other than
Beautiful background. Did you create that background, or was that Anita?
No, that's all Anita's. That's all Anita's StreamYard.
Ah, that's beautiful. The Twitch is still not working, by the way.
Oh, I shut that off.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
so
it was
I
given.
Can stop watching it.
It was having too much. No, it was having too many problems, and it was too much hesitation. We're live on YouTube, so
Yeah, that's
it is
good
what
enough.
it is. What it is.
Yeah.
Until because under my account in Zoom, that does say custom live stream. You got to have like 3 components. So what I got to do is go find a YouTube video. If somebody's banged up, that shows you the 3 links I need specifically for the stream key, the Twitch link, and the 3rd link that I need to pop into that, and then I can go live on Twitch from Zoom. So that's just a learning curve, and this weekend is not that weekend. We learned that last year, not to mess with anything.
Yeah, once you figure it out, so keep it going.
Well, that's the thing, why, if it's not broke, why fix it?
Right.
If we're live on YouTube, and I did go live on Facebook earlier with Karina, just as a trial run, because it'll be 3:00 in the morning, Eastern, roughly. Phoebe Darkling is going to go live on Facebook for LitCon Lounge tomorrow morning. But we may be sleeping, but she'll be awake because she's in Berlin, Germany.
That's roughly when I go to bed, so I might be awake to catch the beginning.
Well, that's what I told her. She's like, I'm a little nervous because I'm not used to using Zoom. And I said, well, odds are I'll probably be awake anyway. I said, so if I got to, I'll pop in. I mean, the time's gone. I can't believe it's already 10 after 9 and they're over on the other show. For the world building. So
Here, make me a host real quick.
Oh, I think I did. Didn't I?
I'm a co-host right now. Make me a host.
Oh, okay.
I want to do something kind of neat for everybody.
Oh.
Change the host.
Let's see if I can pull this off. All right. Let's see, because I think I can only do it if I'm a host. Come on. Let's see if I can do this.
I'm still learning. And that's my own fault. I took a step back from live. Excuse me. I'm sorry. I took a step back from live streaming with everything that I had going on over the past year. Plus going back to college that, and they've made so many changes. Like, I know a lot of people have issues with Zoom, but they've also made so many new advances with it because of the pandemic thing.
Yeah.
Everybody's been using it for everything. I mean, my daughter was doing ballet classes in April or May, at the end of last year's school year, because they couldn't have dance in the studio anymore. And we had already paid for our classes and stuff. So they were literally they were trying to keep the kids' spirits up, just keep them busy. So they were literally doing ballet class and point and jazz and all of her dance stuff was all on Zoom. And then they also did a rehearsal for the theater arts production she was in, which what they were able to do was like in small groups go and what they did was filmed it and then uploaded it to Facebook. Unfortunately, Maddie's part, which was a very important part of the play, it was windier than hell. So you barely hear Madison's lines, but her stage presence is absolutely perfect. It's just hard to hear her lines because they got to do it outside, and how they did it in the driveway of one of the teachers' houses, so they could still maintain the 6 feet and they could do the best they could, but at the same time try to give the kids something to look forward to. And then they just kind of edited it all together and literally made a mini movie of The Wizard of Oz. And my daughter was Glinda the Good Witch. So she had a couple of key points there in the beginning when Dorothy lands in Munchkin Land and stuff, but it was so windy you could barely hear her. So she was all upset about that. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, honey, don't be upset. There's nothing you can do. You can't control that. I said, what you can hear and what you can see with your stage presence was absolutely remarkable. It was perfect. for 13 years old, you know what you're doing on that stage.
I was trying to share my screen so you guys, so everybody who's watching us can watch a little bit of the panel, but it's not letting me do it for some reason. I don't know where I can go to do this. So I was going to share my screen.
I see what you mean. Let's see if I go. Well, I can't do that.
I think because we're broadcasting on YouTube, I don't think you can do it.
Right. Let's see if I can share screen. And then I can do this. Share.
Oh, there you go. How'd you do that one?
I just picked share screen, and I picked the browser. Now I don't know.
I think maybe because you created the Zoom link, that you're the only one who can do that.
And the travel sites.
Oh, maybe.
Because you know,
because I can't do it.
Especially
so maybe if I was the host, I could do it. But let's watch a little bit of the panel, everybody. There's no sound though, Richard, because you're the sound.
Now I'm intrigued to go check out YouTube to see if the voice is coming through.
I'm not. Just kind
Every time you mute it, you mute the sound to the video.
Oh, I'm retarded.
And go right inside the houses and look at the rooms and stuff. So yeah.
Well, that's cool. Yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah, yeah. I use ancient texts for my research. So there's all like the little fragmented text, and they try and put them together, and I have to speculate how their story comes together. And they're like, we think these are the pages, and then I'm like, I'm shuffling around, going, no, I'm going to find my own way through these texts. So I'm really leaning into that. But I just recently started hypnosis therapy. So I'm hypnotizing mostly my husband, and I get all sorts of interesting stories back in past lives, and it's fantastic. So I'm using that as research as well.
That's fascinating. Yeah.
Yeah. PD Oliva and other authors will be on the panels.
Next year I'll be qualified, but yeah, just in the little pieces of little practices that I've done with so much information, I was like, I feel like as a researcher you need primary research. And I would love to go travel through Jordan and Egypt and all these places, but you know how current world is just not going to happen. And you need a ground zero and I feel like hypnosis is it for me on terms of research. But then, you know, one day I'll go to these wonderful places and explore them myself. But it's hard when I'm writing off-world things and when
Right.
bring from this planet onto my stories. So I have to really speculate and discover the weird stuff about our planet, and that's what I'm kind of focusing on. But the ancient stories, like if anyone wants to start off doing that, there's so many stories of layers, and this is pre-religion, pre-Bible, pre-Quran, all of those, and you kind of get to the roots of these stories, and it's just amazing. Like it just opens my mind every time I go, I found another one. Like, so they kind of lead into my stories as well.
Okay. Apparently, LitCon has said hello.
Hello,
And they're broadcasting. And now they're rating us. Yeah. Just don't get too cheeky there over at the LitCon Lounge, or I'll break out the weapons. So. Yeah, it'll be a Viking raid. Okay, so next question. So I know both of you kind of have school elements in your books, because I mean I know your main character Julia is a teenager, and you've got the kind of wizard school in your Reluctant Wizard, I believe, right?
Yeah, so it's very different type of schooling system. So Eli is in this poor community He's struggling. There's poverty. There's just a ongoing war for generations between the wizards and the warlocks, and the community are the ones who suffer. So you've got that traditional teaching system where people who are out of work, injured, or elderly teach the children, but there's not many teachers because they're struggling to survive. So Eli gets a chance to travel to the wizardry lands and attends the prestigious academy. But when he gets there, it's not like a schooling system that we have. It's more like a university system where you get thrown into some research and you literally grow your magic. So the thing about this world is that every single person has magic, but whether you're useful or not will determine your work in society. So everybody has different little bits and pieces to do with their magic, and it's not about learning it or taking on more magic. It's about growing your own magic so that you can have full capabilities. The problem is that you don't learn it. You kind of get thrown into these situations, and it's survival, and it's about pushing yourself and getting you to where you need to be to maximize your abilities. So I really threw out the whole traditional school system, going and learning other people's thoughts. And it's really like, what knowledge do we have within? Turn within, learn what we have as a survival, flight and fight response, and all these things that we just don't learn about, and really rely on that natural way of surviving through life. So yeah, I threw the school system out.
It kind of sounds like a magical boot camp almost.
It does, yeah. It sounds fascinating, yeah.
Yeah.
It's really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. My school system is kind of this weird mix between it's not exactly boarding school, but the trainees go to live at a house, and so it's like kind of like homeschooling with weapons training and fighting that goes along with it. And so it's definitely I wouldn't say it's an academy book or anything like that. If you're looking at that, it's more of how do they learn while they're going on these quests, and while they're fulfilling these missions, and while they're doing school happens in between life in my books.
Yeah.
So it's a way to add real reality, because obviously if they're 16 they need to be doing some schooling, but it's not the main focus of the book. It's things are going on, and then it's oh, we got to go to class now. So.
Yeah, that's good, because you don't want school to dictate your whole life either, do you?
Right, yeah.
Home stuff. And it's funny, when I look back at my childhood, I don't remember school. I don't want to remember school. I remember what I did in the afternoon. So.
Right. I remember the books I read after school, not everything I learned in school. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think I remember the school library more than anything else.
Right. Yeah.
I spent most of my off hours in the library.
Oh.
That's how I started reading Horatio Hornblower books, which are probably the entire reason why I wrote my nautical saga. But yeah, that's all Star Trek's fault, by the way. The reason I read Horatio Hornblower, because I read somewhere that Gene Roddenberry based Captain Kirk on Horatio Hornblower.
Oh, that's
so. Of course,
interesting.
me being the Star Trek fanatic that I am, I had to go read those. And they're
Yeah.
actually
Oh.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Put two and two. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I've done a lot of weird things and read a lot of weird stuff based on some of my geekness.
I think we have to have something weird about us in order to present in a book, because if we were all like everybody else, what makes us unique? We have to have that one thing. I'm a huge Star Wars fan, by the way.
Right. Well, for me, I like to find those quirks for my characters, because I feel like characters are a big part of, to get back to world building. Characters are a big part of world building, and that, you want to make them believable and relatable. So giving your character that quirk that they are a huge Trekkie or a huge Star Wars fan, or they read books based on, certain recommendations. Giving those little details is what really brings them to life for me, as a writer, and then also as a reader. When I'm reading about other people, I look for those quirks in their characters.
Yeah. It's so true. When you said that the characters interrelate with the world building, that they are so connected to the world because that's how they react to things that are happening. And if they don't react correctly, then you can't. You just don't have that believability attached to them.
Right.
And you can't fall into those because you know. It's like having a cliff in the middle of a city. You know, you're not just going to walk off it. People need that proper reaction, and you need to be in that world. So if you're not reacting to it or correctly, then you've lost the readers. So yeah,
that is so true because I was doing a sample edit for someone who was looking for an editor, and they had like this great plot going on, and they had the characters, but there was no world building. There was no like, are they even in a room right now? Like, where are they? Like, what is going on? What do they look like? What are they wearing? Like, what is going on around them? There was no setting them in a time and a place to give the story, like to make the story come to life, because I was just like, these are just voices like shouting into the void right now. Like there's like, it just was all white space. And I was like, you need that world in the background and you need the characters interacting with that world to really get the story started.
That's right. And this goes back to that plot. If you're too heavy on two things, you forget one plot. Yeah, you need to keep going.
Okay, so speaking of characters, how did you two get into the mind of the young protagonist that you have in your books?
Oh, that's a good question. I always feel like there's some trick that like young adult writers are supposed to know, like how do you get into the mind of like your teenage self or something. I go more based off like personality though than like age quirks, you know, because I feel like, you know, every teenager is different, you know what I mean? Like you can't just like typecast all teenagers as being like really like bubbly or outgoing, and you can't cast them all as being like moody and introverted either. So like it's really finding the parts of like the character's personality that speaks to me. Like Bree, like I feel like all the characters have a little pieces of me. Like they're not me, you know, I'm definitely not Mary Sueing it, but like I find pieces of myself that find homes in each of my characters. So whether it's my anxiety or whether it's, you know, like when I am outgoing and bubbly and can crack jokes all the time, like that'll go into one character, and you know, my more philosophical nature will go into another character, or, you know, like little pieces will find their homes. But what I find really helps me is the Myers-Briggs personality types. Okay. Like looking at the types and saying, you know, they're really justice-minded, or they're really like, they're more about intuition and emotions rather than rationalizing. Like finding those pillars of their personality like really helps me to like access the character in a really fast way, especially if they're like a secondary character where I'm like, I don't need to spend pages and pages delving into their character. I can just be like, oh, they're like this personality type, and then I get a good idea of who they are as a backbone.
That's really good. I like that. Yeah. That seems like a more simplified way to do it than I do it. I think of them as little people, and they like jump into my head, or they're there, and I kind of have to discover who they are. So Eli came to me halfway through writing Concealed Power, and that's co-written with Michelle Crow, who lives in America, and I'm in Australia. So, you know, time zones, other side of the planet, it's difficult. So I had a little bit of wriggle room into writing time off. So these characters just kept jumping into my head and trying to distract me, and I'm like, I need to like turn this off and kind of focus on these deadlines because they were coming thick and fast. So I was like, you know what, I just need to focus on this character because he's annoying me. So I was kind of like following him and seeing his story, and he was giving me these little glimpses. And I thought, oh my God, there's a story here. I need to write this. So I was writing Concealed Power and brainstorming The Reluctant Wizard at the same time. And now that seems to be my default. I have to do 3 or 4 books at a time now. And so I never really know what exactly he is as a whole person, because we never know what other people are like. And sometimes we even scare or surprise ourselves what we're capable of doing. So I never understand a character fully going into a story. And half the time when I finish the story, I'm like, oh yeah, and now I see this character like this and this. Like I just don't want to know them fully, because I want to present what I'm seeing this character go through the story. But at the same time, I want the reader to kind of feel their way through it like I did. And because the reader brings so much to the story. So I don't want to confirm that they have this type of personality or this type of structure, just in case the reader feels it's different, that there's something different. Anyway, so that's how I kind of come to like characterization, which is probably, if I had to study that at uni or something, it would be a nightmare because there's no tick this box. And you know, you can get characterization sheets and then you fill them out, what they like and what they dislike. I can't for the life of me fill out those, because I couldn't fill one out for myself. I don't want to know the ins and outs of everything that I'm capable of doing or willing to do, or how would I be in a survival situation, because we're not like that in a day-to-day situation. So for me, it's just a matter of seeing a character and kind of throwing them into situations, seeing how they react. That's all in my mind, not on paper, and then going, you know what, this is perfect for the story and it's going to be integrated somewhere. So that's how I kind of come to characterizations and jumping in their shoes. Just let them wander through my mind.
Yeah, I would say when it comes to the young adult stuff, you don't want to like dumb down the characters, but you do want to keep in mind that they don't have as much experience. They don't have the same kind of maturity levels as adults. So it's not necessarily that you have to like put yourself back into like, what was it like being a teenager, but like remembering like, what was it like to have your first kiss, and what was it like to like discover you like someone for the first time. Like it's just those new experiences rather than like just being like, oh, this is old hat by now. They're going into a fight and they haven't had those high stakes before. So how are they going to react to that for the first time?
Yeah.
That's what I keep in mind writing young adult, is just that, like, you know, the new experiences and how it feels to go through it for the first time again, kind of attitude.
Okay, we got a couple of questions here from the audience. So.
Awesome.
Joe asks, do you feel like the tropes that used to bind authors to the rules when it comes to writing YA are easier to break now and have loosened, or do you feel that it still separates and defines the genre?
I would say this probably depends on whether as an author, you're trying to get into schools or not. Because if you're trying to be part of curriculum or like do school tours or whatever with your book, then you're going to do things like be more careful about swearing and what kind of adult content that you kind of have in your stories. I definitely don't think that necessarily there should be a real difference between, like, you know, like when we look at the Hunger Games, like it's very much life and death. It's very much serious matters that the teenagers are dealing with. And I don't think that we should, like I said, we shouldn't baby the characters or change that at all. But I think that if you are saying like, yeah, I want to get into my, you know, teenage daughter's high school curriculum, then maybe you're not going to go for the really like hard-hitting themes of drug addiction, maybe. You know, like it really depends on like what your goal is as an author, I guess.
I don't like tropes. So I don't write them. But again, some authors, they like them, and readers love them, especially like in the fantasy genre. But for me, I came to young adult writing a book for my children because I was writing fantasy, adult fantasy, and they can't read that for many, many years. So I wrote a book and I leaned on my adult world building into young adult. So I have themes. I didn't know I had themes until after the editor goes, these themes are great. So they would come naturally. But they looked at, you know, the effects of war. You know, we've got wizards versus warlocks, and the community suffering. So, and I did not dumb that down at all. There's people starving, there's people homeless, there's people are struggling, and there's this kid who goes, you know what, I'm going to grow up and save the world. I'm going to grow up and fix all this. I've had enough. I'm the one that's savior. And, you know, we knock him down. We knock him down like in real life situations to say, no, the world's not yours to fix. You know, you're one link in the chain. You can make an impact, but you can't save the world. So I really kind of leaned onto real life scenarios and adult ways of thinking, but for children. So if a child reads my book, it will be a matter of their level of understanding. So if they start at 12, they're going to get the 12-year-old reading. But if they reread it as they get older, they're going to find different layers. And again, it's leaning into that feeling like, okay, I feel for that person who's begging for food. But the child reading that goes, oh, that guy's without food. Like, they're not going to know the extent that he hasn't been without food for days. Until he's older and they do the rereading, then they'll understand just how powerful that moment is. So I just kind of stay away from the tropes, only because I'd have to research all of those tropes, and I've got so much that the world needs to explain and the character needs to explore.
Well, I think that's a great point, is that young adult really should focus on themes, not tropes.
Yeah. It has to be for what's right for the book and the character. Because if you have this great story, great characters, all of this stuff going on, then, you know, then you try and add a trope or something that, because tropes are like ticking as well, like they have expectations. If you don't follow through on those expectations, then you're kind of going out of the boundaries. You know, we can get away with that with fantasy because you don't want to replicate a trope each time. But for something like romance, you know, it kind of needs to be ticking those boxes in order to become a proper, well-accepted book. So fantasy and spec, we're lucky that, you know, we can push those boundaries, we can snap them and get rid of them. But yeah, for young adult books, I think you're completely right. Go for themes.
Focusing on themes is a great way of finding the heart and the meat of your story. And I don't mean necessarily like preaching morals or anything like that, but like the theme of doing what's right when it's hard or something like that, you know, can be a really powerful story. And it just, like I said, it kind of gives like the heart to your story and can like guide your character motivations and everything that's going on without having to worry about tropes.
Great answers. Okay, so our second question is from Richard, and he asks, when world building in fantasy YA, is there a big difference in how you create your world for a younger audience?
No, mine's pretty much on par with the adult one, other than Concealed Power, because that's set in real life. But for the Reluctant Wizard, the world is pretty full on. You're still looking at the movements of the planet, and because that dictates how long the day is and how long the night is. Actually, if anything, my world got more complicated and more complex than my other books. And I thought honestly, when I first started writing it, I was like, this is going to be a 30,000 word book, and it ended up being my longest. And it's sitting at 110,000 because the world is so complicated. And I don't think we need to dumb it down or anything, or even over-explain things. We just put things in, like seeds, put a seed in that reader's mind and let it sprout. And when it does sprout, we'll explore that in book 2 and 3 and 4. So I kind of mapped it out, and I drew proper maps and everything. And as the character goes through all the different sections of the society, then they will kind of explore that part of the story. So it's because it's so focused around the community and the wizard land, that they need to focus on, you know, this part of he'll have it, you know, one part of this section will have a different story, and then it will keep going. So if anything, I more complicated it than I would have for an adult book, because you can more lean into plot rather than world building. But kids can like cement those world building ideas easier than a plot idea. That's how I kind of approached it. But who knows? If I go into book 2, it might be a totally different so
Yeah.
yeah.
I would say for me, it doesn't necessarily change the way I world build, but it changes the way I describe things. Because, you know, you're describing things from your POV character, and what a teenage boy notices is going to be completely different than like what a 40-year-old mom is going to see when she walks in a room.
Yeah.
Like a teenage boy is going to walk in and say like, wow, this place is really clean, and I'm going to go straight to the fridge. You know what I mean? Like they have a very distinct way of thinking. Whereas like, you know, the middle-aged mom comes in, she might be noticing the price of the furniture. She might be noticing like, how big is that big screen TV? And, you know, more adult focused, judgmental ideas. You know what I mean? Like what we see and what we place value on is very different for, you know, a 10-year-old boy or, you know, a 16-year-old girl. So like I tried to think more through the eyes of my character. When I walk in the room, what are they going to notice about the people, places, and things? And what value are they going to put on that? And so it's not necessarily that I'm changing how I build up the world, but just how I describe it, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically you would say that your world building is adult, but it's how the character is perceiving it. It's what you're presenting to the reader.
Yeah. Like, so, yeah, when I'm writing, I dabble in other genres for fun. So like, if I'm writing a horror story, I don't approach how I build the monster's reality and the character's reality. I don't change that from genre or book to story or anything like that. But yeah, like how you present it to the reader changes.
Mm-hmm.
Because that POV character is always changing. So.
Okay, so since you are primarily marketing the book, say, to a younger audience, a YA audience, because you have the YA characters in your book, how did you deal with the more darker aspects of the book? Did you were you unflinching in them, or did you dial them back a little bit?
I tried to like have emotional impact on the characters. One thing I really respect when I read other young adult books that I feel like get it right is like when they show things similar to PTSD. Like you go through a traumatic event, or you go through a battle or a fight or a war, and it's going to affect you. I mean, you know, killing someone for the first time, you know, I try to, you know, like for me, my book deals with demons and demon kind. And so like, it's not exactly like killing humans, but like if they were to kill a human, that'd be a very different feeling, and how would they react to it? And I don't, my first book, some people were a little shocked by the first chapter because of the torture scene. But the character that is doing the torturing is half demon. And so he's really reveling in it. So I tried not to get too dark, but also to be realistic, if that makes sense for a supernatural being. You know, like you want to show the realism of the world and the hardships of the world without being gratuitous, I guess, is how I approach it. I, you know, don't get into every drop of blood or, you know, every like violent thing, but I also try not to sugarcoat it too much either.
That's really cool. I like that,
Amanda.
The being a bit more realistic, because if you have your demons and everything, you know, if they're not relatable, then you're not gonna feel that fear, because you go, oh, that's different, like you're pulling it away. So. What about me? Sorry?
I said, what about you? How did you deal with the darker elements? Because, I mean, one of the themes in your book is actually war, so.
Yeah, so he doesn't see the war itself. He only hears about the war, you know, because when you have children in real life war, you prep them and you prepare them because you don't know what's going on. So he gets this prepping, he gets this preparing. So if something happens, you need to do this. If that happens, you need to do that, because that's a real life scenario. There's no fighting on the streets, but there is fear, and people are scared of fear itself. So he sees the community come together and say, look, the resources have been poisoned, the water supply has been poisoned. We have to rely on these wizards to bring in resources. They fixed all the other communities, but we're not fixed. And so there's this fear of hunger and starvation, and, there's no water, and what are we going to do? And people are fighting. And so there's that type of war scenario. It's that real life consequences of war that's happening, but the war's not on the streets. It's just they hear about it, hear about the things. I definitely give that a child perspective from the book, and he's very prepared. He knows that stuff's going on. This is his real life thing. So I didn't over explain it either, because that's when you have somebody in real life, you don't notice these things that are unusual until somebody else comes in and says, hey, that's weird. So I kind of put him in that shoes as this is my normal. But something
I love that.
So then he pulls in all these things that only the reader will know, but he's just like, oh, that's so normal though. So then we can kind of question, okay, why is he thinking that's normal? Is this the effects of war? He's normal, when really we know that's not right. So that's how I kind of prepared and I was very conscious of younger readers understanding that. But at the same time, my children know about wars and the horrific things that happened in the past, like the Holocaust and things, because children need to know these things. Do I put it in my books? No. I'm putting it in from a perspective of real life consequences, and that is hunger, starvation, homelessness, things like that. That's how I approached it.
I love that though, because I'm just thinking off the top of my head, there's an author who talks about writing about war, and I wish I knew who the author was or the quote better, but he says something along the lines of, you don't write about, the person getting shot in the street, you write about the baby shoe that's left in the dirt at the end of the day. You know what I mean? You write about those little, that's what haunts you, is those little realistic, real life moments of, this person hasn't eaten in 3 days and they're just lying in the gutter, trying to survive.
Yeah,
The more emotional aspects of
it. Yes. Yeah, I love that.
We put a baby or a baby shoe in it. Everyone has that natural protection to jump in and save the baby, no matter whose baby it is. But when they have to jump in and save an adult, there's that question of, oh, should I? Should they save me? But a baby is just off the chart. So that's where you pull heartstrings is, a baby shoe will just up. Yeah.
Right.
But I think we're a bit more open as well with this next generation. That's smarter, they've clicked on, they want to know. We don't need to, wrap our children up in wool anymore. We can say, look, this is the things that have happened in the past, because we don't want them to happen in the future. But there is a lady who's writing about the Holocaust. Her name, the book's called Anna Suitcase or something like that. If you Google, you'll find it. And it's this suitcase that comes to this child in America, and she unravels it, and it's from the Holocaust. It's a leftover suitcase that didn't make it. Hands down. So this child then has to go through and discover all these things, and it talks about it, and it's just unraveling these horrific events that happened in the past, but at the same time educating children. So, and that's the beauty of art, is that we can present the most horrific things in such a way that you go, okay, I understand that from the perspective, and I need to know more. And it kind of plants that seed for when they do grow older, they can prepare and they can lean back on that literature in a safe learning way to learn more about our planets.
Yeah, I feel like we need to give more credit to young readers. I remember one of the most powerful, that reminds me of a school assignment I had to do. We were learning about the Holocaust, and, we had to narrow our belongings down to 2 suitcases, then 1 suitcase, then 1 bag, and then just 1 thing. And eventually, you get stripped of even your name, which is what happened, to those people. So it's that was such a powerful way of learning it. But you know, you can write in that way as well, like she was saying with the suitcase in the book, of unraveling that suitcase and finding out about the person and what happened to them.
Yeah,
You can really humanize these huge events that happen.
that's right. And so when we're pushing these children, like these characters in these horrific events, and they are relatable because you're leaning on this survival instinct and what's going in reality. But with these children that are reading the books today, they might not come across those scenarios, but when they see people who are struggling in the street, who are begging for money, who are homeless, you know, they've got that empathy, like, oh, actually, I read a book about this and how hard it was, and they're building that empathy and that understanding instead of saying, oh, look at that person, he failed the society, let's just walk past and ignore him. You know, that's not a good way of raising children. So when we do lean into these harder, darker topics, we are trying to teach our children what humanity is about. We have people suffering, and we've had horrific events, like absolute genocidal events that should have never happened. These children need to know about this, and books and art are the best way to kind of open up their world.
Okay, we have another question from the audience here. Okay, so Stacy wants to know, how do you manage potential parental social reaction to the whole social appropriateness in YA literature, especially when it comes to darker elements, i.e. protests around depiction of violence? And I'd also add depiction of sex in that, because that's the one that usually gets the most parental reaction.
That's tough because, like I said, you know, if you're really wanting to be in like part of your school's curriculum and you know, doing stuff like that, then there is a kind of a line that people feel they need to walk, and then there's the whole, you know, are we censoring, or you know, should we be, you know, exposing or, you know, children to this? But I feel like that's one of the great things about being able to write speculative fiction. And one of the reasons why I love writing fantasy is not just the everyday magic that we get to put into books, but we can kind of explore societal issues without taping them down. Like if we're talking about, you know, don't use, don't call a muggle born a mudblood because it's a dirty word. Like we can kind of talk about societal issues of discrimination or, you know, mistreating others because of their societal position or, you know, their class or, you know, whether they're muggle born or whatever. You know, you can kind of twist it in a way of exploring it without being like, we're talking about this specific societal issue that's going on right now. So it's kind of, it gives you like a safer way of going through it. And also helping children to understand by saying like, well, it wouldn't be fair to treat Jenny differently just because of who her mom is compared to who John's dad is, right? So, you know, you can apply that to real life, but using, you know, these filters of fantasy and magic and, you know, other ways of exploring the issues that just feel safer. To me, they feel safer in some ways than just like getting into the nitty gritty of, you know, these issues.
I don't really do sex or sexual issues or anything in my books, even my adult books. I do co-write, and she's a romance author, so if there's sex, it was her. I need something, I go, oh, I need a romance scene here. So
blame the sex on the other author.
Yeah, that's right. I can do the dark stuff, but yeah, there's romance stuff like straight out of my head. So that wasn't an issue in my book, but for the appropriate stuff, it's hard because, you know, there's like a political correctness that goes on, especially in the trade publishing world. They don't want adults touching children, even in an empathy way. So like, you know, there was some talk in some Australian publishers where the adults were hugging the children. Now, I have hugs in my book from the parent, because there is nothing that words can describe a loving hug from a parent, especially if you're having a hard time. But they don't want that touching, they don't want these interactions, and that limits that non-verbal communication. Non-verbal communication is so much more powerful than what we can come out of our mouths. So, I can say I love the room and just give your mom a big hug, or your dad a hug, or whoever it is that's raising you, for no reason at all. That says a lot more than I love you. So I kind of push back on the political correctness that the trade publishers definitely want. In The Reluctant Wizard, I've got children who are at risk of dying, and who are dying, who are tortured. We don't see it, we hear about it, we understand that it's going on in that world, but there could be if I went down the trade route, it probably would have been a massive issue. I think we have to really trust the readers that we're putting this book into. So, I have 3 children myself. 2 of my children would absolutely love this book. One of my children, no go. He's too sensitive that it would break his heart. But if we're active readers ourselves, and we know what our children would love and what they would cope with, then we can safely say, okay, yes, read this, no, wait till you're older, or prepare them and say, look, this book is hard, it has these things, are you sure you want to go ahead with it? And then when they go through these books, you can sit down and have these conversations at dinner, because you know what they're reading, you've read it yourself. So
reader discretion is a really important thing. Knowing what you as a reader, or what your child as a reader is capable of understanding and processing, is like just huge, because it's like, ultimately, I can write a fade to black violent scene or death, and it's not going to be gory, but how that affects your child as a reader is completely determinant on the child who's reading it.
That's right. Everyone has triggers as well. Adults have triggers. They know what they can and can't read. Like, but my trigger is rape. I cannot have anything to do with the story if it's featured. But can I watch, a whole war, like cut each other's throats? Yeah, I'm totally there. That's my thing. I love it. So I think children have triggers and what they can and can't do. It's just a matter of approaching literature and saying, okay, these books are great for you, and these books are great for you, and figuring out what your children like. So, some children need to know more about sex younger than other children. And, we need to have books there that prep them for that. So I think every single topic needs to be explored in the right way and for the right age. It doesn't mean every child needs to read every book. No, they need to find what they need to get personally.
Yeah, I mean, I know I read some very adult books as a young child. I mean, I watched Nightmare on Elm Street when I was like 2, like I did inappropriate things as a child all the time, but
I still haven't watched that movie, so yeah.
No spoilers. I won't give you any spoilers. But I was watching horror films as a toddler. I wanted to be watching what my big sister was watching, and all that stuff. So I definitely dove headfirst into adult themes, and I did not find it to be damaging. I found it to be, something to think about, something to, contemplate and say, like, why did I have, this reaction to the character dying? Like, why did it move me so much? Because they were a good person, and, it teaches you lessons, and so it really does depend on the reader. And I think that, as a parent, if you have concerns, then, that's a great point. Talk about it over dinner. Like, why do you want to read this book, and what do you think you get out of it? And, how can we, learn about this topic together? If you don't think the book is appropriate, then what is a more appropriate way for us to learn about the subject matter?
Yeah, and leaning back on like sex, for instance, and the adults, it would be great if there was more books out there that teach children what healthy and unhealthy relationships are, especially in family dynamics. Books should have people having inappropriate moments and having the characters react in a proper way. This prepares children for those moments. Deleting them completely out of all literature is ridiculous. And if I wish I had those books to kind of go, you know what? I don't like this. This is making me uncomfortable. I like how that character reacted to this, especially young girls who are dealing with older men, who are, if you have a character come up and there's like a sleazy, I don't know, uncle or man at the shop or whatever, how do you react to that? How do you put people back in their place, and how do you empower these children? Books aren't the way to do it. Movies are not the way to do it. They can be doing, but then, they kind of get washed down a bit. It becomes inappropriate. You're putting a child actor in that situation as well. So I think literature is like the perfect way to do it, because you can read it, you can reread it, you can go and ask questions about it. We can do talkings like this. But and
I have in my new book, I have that older character that likes the 16-year-old girl, and she's like, "No, sir, you are too old for me. Like, this is, we're friends, and that's how we're gonna stay." And I feel like it's important to address things like that, like and represent healthy boundaries.
That's right. That's definitely right. Because I even the other day I was out at the shops and this lady just was like blah at me, and I don't even know what I was doing. I think I was picking apples, and she just randomly come out, and I turned back and I said something to her, and I'm like, where did that even come from? Like, it just come out of my mouth. And it was like a book from the Odyssey. I was like, blah, 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 at her. And I'm like, wow, we really do get influenced so much by books. And I kind of walked away from that situation and go, wow, I wonder what my books would do to somebody in that situation. So for young adults, I can just imagine how it would shape their adulthood, because it gives you the tools and the resources in going into adulthood and the workplace and further study and all sorts of things, and situations where we're not comfortable. So we do need to kind of stop deleting things out of books and pushing them further and say, actually, this is making me uncomfortable. Why is it making me uncomfortable? Let's push it in there. Yeah. Let's have a conclusion to it. Yeah.
Okay, so I think that's a good place to end the panel, because we're coming up on the end of the hour here. And so I'll let you two tell everybody where they can find you and your books. Let's start with Julia. So.
Okay, I am Hijinks Writer on most social media, and you can find me at hijinkswriter.com. That's my new website. So yeah, come find me.
I'm AA1, and you can find me at aa1.com. And I have limited edition The Reluctant Wizards out now, which you'll find on Facebook. So you can find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at AA1. Nice and simple.
Okay, so, and I'm your host, A.F. Stewart, and I definitely do not write YA books. So, so if you are interested in YA books, don't read my stuff. But you can find me on my website at afstewart.ca or on Facebook at my Facebook group, AF Stewart's Minions. So, and I'd like to thank my guests, Julia and Amanda, for being here tonight. It was a terrific panel.
Thanks for having me.
And we'll be back Saturday with 2 more panels and Sunday with another 2 panels. So please join us at LitCon for those. So bye for now.
No, I gotta shut off. There we go. That was wild. That's pretty cool how we can do that.
Yeah, neat. Yeah, that's
great.
cool. That was a great panel.
That was a really good panel. I was quite interested in it, and I'm not a YA fan. I'm not a fantasy book fan. I'm a fantasy fan, and I think I short myself from not being able to sit down and read fantasy books because they're so large. I was grateful to get a hold of a couple of audiobooks from Joshua Robertson, and I really enjoyed them, but I'm grateful that they were audiobooks because I just don't have the focus to sit down and read a full novel. But I can sit down and read or watch a fantasy film like that and enjoy it, love it. So, but being not that especially a young adult fan, I was still very intrigued in what both of them were talking about.
Yeah, I've kind of grown to appreciate the young adults genre a little bit more, having interviewed so many and talked to so many authors and having to read some of the stuff for some shows that I've done. But I agree with you on the fantasy thing. I'm right there with you. I was force fed fantasy growing up, and like my first adult book was Dune, and so I was indoctrinated to the info dump world pretty quickly in my life. And then, of course, then you go from that to The Hobbit to Lord of the Rings, and it goes on and on. And I just never. I like I was talking to somebody here earlier. I don't remember who it was. I don't want to misspeak, so I apologize for forgetting. But I was talking about the one oh it was Jim, and I was talking to Jim about his when he was pitching his book to me. The idea of it sounded like Secret Wars. Us comic guys know what Secret Wars is, and and I like that because I like the element of the underlying thought process. Like the deep thought, the intriguing thing that stimulates me intellectually, and Dune does that to an extent. Even Lord of the Rings has a little bit of that, but it's really in your face. You know, Frodo frowns, and there's a lot of that in there, and it kind of takes away from what makes books so magical sometimes, which is the mystery and intrigue and the imagination that you put behind it, and that's why people are so passionate when they see a book that they love and it's made into a movie and it's not in their vision because they had a vision for it, right? And so, or the opposite, which happens very rarely, in that the auteur captured the vision that you were hoping they capture, or they casted it perfectly, or whatever, But that's what I love about literature and reading and movies and everything is that if you keep me the way you keep me engaged is you have this underlying theme, or even something that is kind of like an Easter egg in certain respects. And that's how I enjoy it. So if you're info dumping on me, you'll lose me very, very quickly. That's why I don't like movies that have voiceover or have narration in them. I think they're a waste of time. And why can't you show this to me? Why do you have to tell it to me? It'll take me. I don't care how good the movie is. It'll take me out of the movie, and I'll never recover. So that's how I feel. There's Amanda. The star is born. Look at that. She was fantastic. That was fantastic.
Oh.
Hello, guys. Oh, thank you. Yeah, Julia's great. I like her. She's easy to talk to. It sounds neater.
I really enjoyed that. That was really good. We were just talking about our distaste for. Well, we were saying how great your panel was, but we were also talking about how we're not YA fans, or we're not the target audience, and Richard and I were talking about how we're not big fantasy fans because I was saying because of the info dump idea of it. It's really I like to think, and when you take the thinking away from me, it hurts me tremendously.
Yeah, so there's more epic fantasy, I find, and that's where you get those really big, thick books. So I'm more speculative fiction. I am heavy in the fantasy because you can't market a spec fic book. Like, there's no categories for it, and then people go, well, what makes up spec? And it's too confusing. So I lean heavy fantasy, but yeah, you got to really pare it back.
and it has to feel like, you know, a bit of a thriller and a bit of an adventure, but it can't be that info dumps. Yeah, I'm not a fan of those either. So
And I was just
it goes
saying,
back to that plot. You know, if you're planning a story and you've got your character, your plot, your world building, you're too much on that world building. You've forgotten your character and your plot.
yeah, the story gets
Yeah.
lost, right? You know?
That's right. Yeah, works perfect for an epic fantasy person, but other genres, no.
Yeah. I was saying how also movies lose me because of voiceovers, because I just can't stand narration. I just think it's a waste of time. So
Name one movie that does it good.
I can't. That's what my point is. I think.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Actually, I can name one. There's one, but it wasn't narration as much as it was commentary, and that's American Beauty. I found that fascinating, him talking over it a little bit. But those when they're observatory, they're not as bad as the ones that go, well, you know, when I was 6 years old, I stuck my finger in a light socket, and this is why I stutter. So you're going to hear me stutter throughout the film. Gee, thanks. Well, you couldn't show
you
that?
couldn't see that in a scene. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. I love that you kind of buck convention in terms of YA too. That you're more, the storyline lends itself more to YA than the conventional way of writing YA does. I like what you were saying about that.
Yeah. Like, the thing is, I don't read a lot of young adult books, and the only time I do is before I give it to my daughter, because she's only 12, so she's not quite into that age bracket yet. I read like all sorts of weird shit, and I like I find it hard to say, oh, okay, this fits in the market and it relates to this and this, because I just don't know what's really on the market. And I go down the aisles of the bookstore, there's only two things that will grab my attention. So I kind of get a bit worried about what's conventional and what is like perfect for that genre, really, because where are the boundaries? Why aren't we pushing the boundaries? Literature is supposed to be no boundaries, and this is probably why I'm not suited for trade publishing. I have to go down the indie route, because can you imagine sitting there and going, okay, sell me your book, and I'm like, well, it's got everything and it does not fit on the shelves at the bookstore. So we need more books like that. We don't need the same thing chewed up and spit out and over again. So yeah, I'm pretty bad when it comes to things like what's on the market and what's I get my children to inform me what's on the market.
You know, it's funny because I think a lot for Americans, so there's a lot of misconception about Australia, because we were indoctrinated with silliness in Crocodile Dundee and Yahoo Serious, and we weren't given the context of finding the amazing things that come out of Australia, like Rubber, for example. What a phenomenally weird and interesting concept that film is, compared to Crocodile Dundee, which is basically a cash grab. I mean, Paul Hogan himself is
Barbie. Like, we don't even say shrimp. We call it prawns. Like, it's prawns on the Barbie. And so it Americanized our stupidity at the same time, which is funny as.
Are you guys really insulted by that movie?
Yeah, because every American's like, shrimp on the Barbie. We're like, idiots. We don't even call it that.
So much so we even made fun of it in our own culture with Dumb and Dumber. I don't know if you saw that, but the scene when he's picking him up in the limo. Oh, you're from Austria, huh? Well, put another shrimp on the Barbie. You know?
Yeah. It's a joke that doesn't stop giving. Like, it's
right. Have you seen Rubber? This beautiful movie that.
Oh, I think you meant Flubber. That was what was that movie? No, I haven't seen Rubber. No.
Rubber is the movie about a killer tire that gets possessed by a serial killer the tire gets possessed by a serial killer and goes on a killing spree and kills a bunch of people in the Australian outback.
Tire?
Yes,
What do you mean?
it is a tire.
A tire on a wheel?
On a car tire, like a Jeep tire.
No, I have not seen this. You're gonna link me later.
Yeah, this is a must. If you're a horror fan, this is a must-see film. It is absolutely the weirdest and most insane thing I have ever seen.
Oh man, that's funny. It's bringing tears to my eyes. No, we have some amazing Australian stuff coming out, or have just come out. If you go on to we have a platform called Stan, but I'm not sure if it's definitely in America. Glitch.
Mhm.
Glitch is like one of my favorite TV shows. And it's this tiny little town. Can't even remember what the town's called. And it's just 2 cops, so it's an outback town, and these people crawl out of their graves and they can't remember who they are, and it's fantastic. And it's like, imagine, you know, half a dozen people crawling out of their graves, and this local cop is like, I can't believe this, and the local one doctor in the whole town's trying to figure out, saying, well, they're not dead and there's nothing wrong with them, and they've got this new lease on life. And it's just amazing. It's a 3 series, and it's just fantastic. So they've just finished it. I highly recommend that one.
Wow.
But yeah, so there's heaps of Australian books coming out that are just amazing, especially from the indie world. And I should plug them more often. You know what, Joe? We should do an Australian week.
I would love that. Oh man, yeah. I would love that. That would be fantastic.
And I know you're into horror and that. Like Alan Baxter, he's a fantastic horror author. He doesn't live too far from me, and his books are like twisty. So you go, oh my god, I'm totally predicted the ending. And you know when you're just kind of waiting for that ending to come and you prove yourself right, and then you're like, oh no, twist, oh no, like you can't predict nothing. Yeah, and I'm pretty good at predicting endings. So Alan Baxter is fantastic. Totally recommend him as well. Nice. There's heaps. Oh god, I could go on and on. Yeah,
that's awesome. The concept you just pitched sounds kind of like it sounds like a version of like the 100 meets Pet Sematary kind of.
Yes, except Australian outback, and you've got like the Australian town, and it looks at the history as well. So in the 3rd season we have this guy comes back to life, and he's Japanese, because we had a lot of people come from overseas in the gold mining areas, and so we kind of look at this backstory of how he was there in that time back in, I think it was like 200 years ago, not quite. And yeah, you find out like the culture barriers and how hard it was for these people to come over, can't speak English, are in these towns, and there was a lot of racism. We also, in season 1 and 2, we look at the Indigenous stories of Australia and how these towns were navigating this. So you've got this mayor, outrageous mayor, who comes back to life in today's modern time, and he's saying these terrible racist things to this Aboriginal kid, and this kid's just like, what, how dare you call me this, and how dare you call me that, and puts it back, and he's like, well, I'm the mayor of this town, how dare you speak up to me. And so it's racist, and they end up becoming the best of friends. And but it's just seeing that race dynamic in this town and how things have changed. It was just it's so well done, and that's why I love it. I tell everybody, you've got to watch this show. So it's called Glitch.
All right, yeah, I'm gonna go find it. That sounds amazing.
Oh yeah.
How many seasons is it into?
So they only did 3, so it's 3 complete seasons.
And then they ended it.
Yeah, they ended it. Yeah, I'm not sure why, but they were making it every 2 years, which, you know, like, you know, every 2 months, I totally advocate for. Every 2 years it was coming out. I was like, I was so in love with it. I committed. I stayed with it. So it's just, you know, when the writing's done so well, and even though they've dropped out a couple of characters and the storyline differed a little bit, it was still done so bloody well. And my hats off to the writers, because it's still the same dynamic. It tied it up in the end. It was just a perfect ending, and I won't ruin it for anybody, but it started from the very beginning, and it just had those themes, and it was consistent. Because when you see these TV shows and they go on for a while, sometimes you lose a character, but then you lose a whole theme, and they take a whole thing away from it, and you're like, oh, but it's the same world, it's the same story. Like, why couldn't you continue that? So, and they managed to do that. So I was pretty.
Maybe they'll do a spinoff or something, but kind of like Better Call Saul, from Breaking Bad kind of thing. But
well, see, this is the problem with Australian literature and movies and television series, is that we do not break into the American market. It's next to impossible. And the Australian market is very, very small. So in terms of books, if you sell 10,000 books here in Australia, that's a bestseller. That is a bestseller. In America, that's not very many. So America can have a very small readership or a very small, viewers, and they manage to they manage to get a couple of seasons and it starts to grow organically. But here in Australia, you hit the maximum, you still might not be able to generate. So I think America is it is the be all and end all to kind of break into that market. But at the same time, we're losing a lot of great Australian voices, a lot of great literature out there, because we're just struggling to break the market.
And then you have things like Neighbours that hits it big out here, which I'm sure is a joke in Australia.
So, are you when did Neighbours hit America? Because it's an English fan show. When I went to England back in the 90s, they had Home and Away and Neighbours. So Home and Away is bigger than Neighbours, and because it's like beach type of stories, and. Funny enough, it was on twice a day, in the morning and the afternoon. And my great grandmother, she'd watch both episodes. And I'm like, but it's the same one. She goes, I don't care. I just need to remember it all. And yes, so it's a very English. So I had no idea it came to America.
Oh yeah, anything that's soap opera, America will eat up with a spoon. But for anybody who doesn't know, that's Australian soap opera. So
that's funny.
So Home and Away is on the beach, so you got beach community, and Neighbours is like one suburban street.
Yeah. All I remember about Neighbours was there was that one racy girl that would get down on her knees, and of course you know what she's doing when she gets down on her knees. But it was always it was so polarizing to Americans, because that would never happen in an American soap opera.
Is this in Neighbours?
Yeah.
Oh, you've watched more episodes than I have. I don't even watch mainstream TV.
Well, I don't know what that says about me. I'm not so sure. I think I need to go take a shower now. But
yeah.
Oh God.
Oh yeah. They do. See, in Australia, we get away with a lot more too. So a lot of people come from overseas. They listen to our radio and they're just shocked. We have one show's Kyle and Jackie O, and Kyle's outrageous. He'll just say whatever he wants to say, and they now have a sensor on him, and they'll beep him. You can tell he's going off, and sometimes they'll dump the show. That was court imposed censor, right? Doesn't get taken off the air. But then we have people from, my cousins moved from England, and they're like, have you heard of Kyle and Jackie? I cannot believe my ears. I had to turn that shit off. And I'm like, but that's normal. We don't realize that we have a lot more freedom.
Yeah. Well, you don't have the political, I'm trying to be.
Do you guys have the freedom of speech or something?
Yeah. I mean, it's more of the more family value oriented idea, where there's a lot of tailoring toward, certain parts of America that have a little bit more I hate to say religious fervor, but that's basically what it is. You know, there's a little bit more behind the conservative nature of a portion of America that doesn't accept that kind of thing as, you know,
Yeah.
acceptable in culture,
Yeah.
which is not always a bad thing, but sometimes it's very stifling for a lot of people.
Yeah, so I got pulled up by my editor in The Reluctant Wizard. I think I called somebody like an idiot in there, and I was like, oh yeah, she'll pull me up. No. She got pulled me up on the word damn. So she's like, look, this is not going to be accepted by like the younger readers' parents, and you can't say the word damn. And I'm like, here in Australia, we say it all the time, like, because there's no religious attachment to that. Like, we just like, damn this, damn that. Well, yeah, my kids say it all the time. Like, I had no idea that was an issue. I can totally call someone an idiot. That's fine. Because if you count, I think it 13 or 30 something times in Toy Story, yeah, that's fine. But do not damn anything. I was like, okay, got it. Yeah, and we come from like, we're such a multicultural country, but we don't have the religious aspect to it. Yes, people are religious. Yes, you can do any religion whatsoever here in Australia, but it does not kind of like pepper our conversations and our speech.
I think I don't think it's the religious people as much as it is the religious political climate that you know tries to
Yeah.
mirror that.
Yeah. And you
You
guys
know,
do politics like crazy. See,
yeah,
here
everything
we
here
don't
is
allow our politicians to campaign more than 2 weeks, or we just put like big muffle. Like, we don't want to hear it. Like 2 weeks, you're done. That's it. But yeah, I think that's because our stuff comes after the American politics, and we're just kind of like bombarded with your news. So yeah, we don't. People, it's not right to kind of talk about who you vote for either here. It just doesn't. It doesn't. No one's really political, outspoken like
it
that.
used to be that way here too. But it's not.
Oh God, are we looking in the future? Yeah.
I do know one thing about Australia that's interesting is that you guys really love your talk shows. There's a lot of talk shows. There's a lot of like morning chat shows. There's a lot. I watch a lot of like circuitries and people going on these international tours, and I'm always amazed that I see a different like normally I can recognize the show by what the person goes on. Like I can see that it's Graham Norton, or I can see, so I know that's in England, and I can see when they're on the Pierce show, whatever his last name, I don't remember his last name, but I can tell when they're on his show and all this. But I never recognize a single anchor in Australia because it seems like you guys have like 50 million of them, and it's just like every time I see a different celebrity go on an Australian show, it's a different person they're talking to that I've never seen before.
Yeah, and they're like panels as well, so that they're kind of like interrelate. I think because you've got like the Monday to Friday ones, and then you got the weekend ones, and then they change again. Yeah, so there's that. Yeah, and then each channel has their own version, and look, I think they're more aimed towards the elderly and the people who have retired and the people who are at home a bit more because that's daytime TV.
Mm-hmm.
The stay-at-home parents and things like that. So yeah, I used to watch them when my kids were really little, just because we didn't have all of the TV channels and the streaming that we do now, and they are infomercials and they talk about what's going on and the people are touring, but then they can say some really terrible shit too, like racist shit and colonial crap and all this stuff, and there's like this big outcry, oh well, that's my opinion and I sit on that. And I go, yeah, well, it still makes you a dick. So yeah. I don't kind of tap into any of that anymore, only because, you get certain people who say some absolute terrible things, and they don't get kind of like, they don't get put on trial for it, really. There's no consequences for what they're saying. And the problem with those platforms is that they can say whatever they want and it's broadcasted right across the country, or now the world. So when you have people like so our Indigenous people are repressed in this country, and for example, 2 days ago in court, that they were Indigenous people aren't even allowed to have the flag held up in Parliament on NAIDOC Week, and NAIDOC Week is embracing our Indigenous culture and allowing things like treaties and all sorts of stuff, but that's like not. And so then when you have these people who are and this middle-aged white man who kind of reinforce the colonial thinking and saying, no, we don't want Indigenous people on our panel. No, we don't want multiculturalism. We want to celebrate these white, because that's what everybody on these panels are white people. So we're losing that Indigenous things, and they kind of don't get stopped in what they're saying. What they're saying is not right. And that's kind of where I turned away from it and thought, you know what? I'm not going to tap into these people. I kind of don't want to know about them anymore, and I don't have anything to do with them. And until there is diversity and when we can talk about things like the importance of allowing Indigenous voices, multicultural voices, then I'll kind of re-engage with them again.
That's awesome. I love that. I love that that's your stand. I was going to ask you why you haven't taken advantage of the idea that there's so many talk shows, but you just kind of answered that entire question with that. So,
well, so another thing is it's a money-making scheme. So I have, my publicist. I have a wonderful publicist in Canada, and he kind of gets me on the global side. But for Australia, it's more like, if I pay this publicist $15,000, then I can go on all the television shows. It's not about tapping into like what's available and what's going on. No, these authors are having to pay out a ridiculous amount of money for somebody in the know to get somebody on there. I can't just send in a book and say, hey, I've published this. Are you interested? It will correlate with something that's, Literacy Week or something. They don't want to know. They don't want to know. It's who's got the biggest pocket, who's willing to do the most work. Because if you have bigger authors who have the national thing, then people are more likely to engage with them and watch them. So it's kind of like this double handling. And again, that's why so many writers and people who are making movies and TV shows, they're focusing on the American people because that's who's flying in, that's who's paid for their spot, and the Australian ones will get kicked out again. Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say, unless Baz Luhrmann was making your book into a movie, you probably then that would be. I don't know if Baz Luhrmann's a national treasure there or not, but he's a treasure to me. I think that guy's absolutely brilliant. But or maybe Nicole Kidman starring in your movie.
Oh yeah, and she's got a little production company too. I think she's in Big Little Lies. So the author from that, I mean, she's a world-known author, and in Australia, nobody knew her name until Big Little Lies come out. They're like, "Wow, who's this lady? Who's this writer?"
And all of a sudden, she's J.K. Rowling.
Yeah. No, she's still not a household name. No, unless you watch Big Little Lies, then everyone knows who she is. Yeah. Right. So it's still very limited. And the problem with Australia too is that people don't read. There's the tiniest readership, and so if you hit that 10,000 sales, yes, you've made it. Is that going to happen every single book? No. And it's only a small portion for America. So America has a bigger readership. Canada has a massive readership.
Yeah.
I think the tiniest little countries in Europe still have bigger readerships than Australia. And that's sad. That's really sad.
Is it more apropos for you to try to tap into a marketplace that's so saturated like America or Canada versus England? Is England a better try to get to, because you guys have such an incredible history and connection to England. I'm curious if that's not a better attempt at tapping into a marketplace that's maybe a little bit less saturated than an American or a Canadian? Or do you feel like because you're Australian, maybe you have a novelty that other people don't have that would set you apart in America and Canada?
I think every market's hard because there are so many authors and indie publishers now. Yeah, I should probably do more in England. I do have family there. I could say, hey, drop this in. I rely on the family. I'm trying to get into the school systems here in Australia because authors are just not doing those, and kids are desperate for great books and they're looking for the next best thing, and the problem is we do not provide that. So that's where I'm tapping in at the moment. But yes, you're right, America is saturated, but the thing is, like, even if you get 1% of what you were aiming for, it's still bigger than what I got here in Australia. So England is, it's definitely a market that I could do. But again, when you're an indie publisher, you don't focus on the writing and the next book and the next thing. So I do these waves where I'm like all over social media. Yes, I'm here. I'm doing these meetings. Yes. And then I disappear for like 3 weeks. And then I get a message and like, are you still alive? Yeah, I was just in this book and I got deadlines. And then I'm like, shit, I just got to do all this social media again. So that's cool. But you know what it's like. It gets busy, and then you got to figure out, oh shit, I got to cook dinner now, and so it's just a matter of achievable goals. What's available? Am I suitable for that? As there's been a few things I got thrown into, and I'm like, what am I doing here? But I just do it. So I just make little achievable goals, and then hopefully that will kind of snowball into something else later on. Because, at the end of the day, you've got to be practical. And the word, if I'm not putting words into the next book, then the deadlines are not going to be met. I'll miss the editor. So I do try and do a little bit of outreach and kind of give people. So I've got like an assistant now, and my co-writer. If my co-writer's like, oh, I'm not busy in the next 2 weeks, I'm like, well, you can do all this because I'm flat out. So it's just a matter of being practical. What can we practically do? And marketing. There's just no golden rule. There's no rule book, and you see all these
courses. It doesn't work the same for each person. There's no formula that works for everybody. It's different for everybody.
I think everyone's trying to replicate J.K. Rowling, and
hopefully not. Now that we know a little bit more about her personally, hopefully not.
I meant the books and the marketing part, not the person. But
just don't be a jerk.
Exactly. We're going back to that again. Yeah, exactly. A racist, sexist jerk.
For real. Or a homophobe.
We're all humans on the same planet. We're all taking the same ride.
Pretty much, every time I see you, I always have this. I always have this question in the back of my mind, and because this is a little bit more informal, I want to ask it to you now, and that is, I see all those books behind you.
Yeah. Have I read them all?
No, that's not my question. I would have assumed you had, but my question is, what is your prized possession in that case? What is it? What would you say is the most valuable thing to you personally in that case?
Oh, okay. I'm gonna have to say I've got the original Karen Miller Godspeaker series.
Ooh.
And Karen Miller is a Canadian who moved out here when she was a young child. She's like the heavyweight of fantasy. But, it is a thick fantasy series, but it's not the world building dump that we were talking about earlier.
Right.
So her publisher went bust, and then they moved all her books over to another publisher, but the original covers are wonderful art. You've got this girl and she has dark skin and she's sitting on this throne, but it's in the shape of a scorpion,
Ooh.
And I picked those books up from like $1 each from the brand new. I couldn't believe it. I'm thinking, oh, who's Karen Miller? And I started reading these stories. I swear I've read them 5 times. I never reread anything. And then I lent them out and I couldn't find them. And I couldn't remember who I lent them out to. And I rang everybody in my phone book. I'm like, did I lend you these books? And that was it. I never lend anything out to anybody anymore, except for my neighbor, because she's right there and I can just invade her house and go, right, I need them back. So I'm a bit of a book hoarder, obviously. But
Give
that
my babies back.
I know.
Funny.
I then tracked down the original ones from other buyers and stuff, but then I still have the new ones as well. But it's something about those covers where they are perfect for the story. And the new publisher, look, they're great. They're brown. There's a girl and she's kind of wandering the desert, but it does not give it to her empowerment to become the queen of that land. So I had to have the original covers as well as the new ones. Yeah. And I don't do that often. I do have a, actually, it arrived the other day. I have really old books. So I've been collecting 200-year-old texts. So this is like a monk holding a scroll. Now this is a 3-volume thing. So this is volume 1 that just arrived, and then I got volume 3. I'm still trying to track down volume 2. Yes, I take donations if anyone's got it. These things take 3 months to arrive because they come from overseas. And what it is I read all these ancient texts, and they're like fragmented stories because they come off tablets, clay tablets that are dug up at archaeology sites. And what happens is people I can't read the tablets myself, obviously, but I read the translated scripts, and they can't figure out which order they come into, and then they've got like little stories and they're trying to piece it together. So the problem is they come up with these names, and these names and these sites and these places, and sometimes they just go over my head. So this is technically a dictionary of the Bible, but it's not the religious Bible. It's like the stories before the Bibles were kind of, so these like are my reference books to the ancient texts.
Wow.
So they kind of help get my head together, because I'm not very smart when it comes to religion.
Are they translated from Aramaic, or are they translated from like Babylonian speak?
So at the moment I'm looking at the ones in Jordan and Mesopotamian.
Sure. Mesopotamian.
Mesopotamian, that's it. So I learn these words when I read them, but then I have to speak them. I'm like, so I'm looking at that whole region. Because they say that we're not sure about the Jordan people, but in the ancient texts they're talking about nuclear bombs and nuclear war and giants, and my head's there. So I'm not sure what the original texts are from, because I don't look at like the way that they are, the archaeology sites, and I don't look at the kind of like the academic side of it. I probably should, but I don't want them to taint my reading of the actual text. I just want the text. So I'm a bit selfish.
So they translate it purely from the tablet. So there might be some broken sentences in there, some missing words and things like that. So it may not make a lot of sense.
That's right. And so you'll have ... and then ... and then they'll say this was page 1, this was page 2, but we don't actually know which one came first. So sometimes if they don't know the order, I'll shuffle it around myself and read it, and I'll put it in an order that I think is correct. So because that
is absolutely fascinating.
Yeah. So ancient texts are amazing because this is all pre-Bible, pre-Diluvian, all of the kind of, and then when you hear about these stories like Noah and his ark, you're like, hold on, I've read that somewhere, and it's in an ancient story. And then you find out the Quran and the Jewish people and the Buddhist people and India. If you ever want text, go to India. India is like a written history of absolutely everything. And I think they cover from the beginning of bloody time. Like, it's just so vast and amazing. And they
So
talk about aliens
it's part of
and
the
off-planet stuff and everything. Yeah, India is fascinating.
so it's part of the WFBC movement. What way the fuck before Christ?
Yes. I think now, because I'm not anti-religion, like, so people will say that I am because I hear religion, I go, oh, no, I don't want to know about that. And it's not because I don't want to know the stories, is I want to discover things on my own. I don't want to be told, I don't want to be preached to, and I don't want today's watered down versions. I want the pure texts where I can make up my mind and go, oh, wow, this was part of history. And the whole term mythology pisses me right off. So take away mythology and put real life. And it changes your perception of this planet.
That's awesome.
Especially in India. So if you take away mythology and put real life, then you go, oh my God, this actually happened, and it changes your thinking. Yeah.
That's fantastic. I love that.
Yeah.
Cool. What are you reading now? What's on the agenda for now, other than translating your text?
Well, I don't do the translations. I'm not that smart, jeez.
Well, I mean interpreting the text more likely.
So I think I don't even know what it's called. I think it's called the Elza, something like that. It's a 2-word thing, double E for both of them. And so that's just looking at the giants and the story of and the complications of the giants. So the giants had like little tribes of humans, and they were arguing that they had a premonition. And these premonitions were about the end of the world, that the gods were angry with them because they're sleeping with the humans, they're having sex, and they're having these weird ass children, and the gods are like, no, we're not having any of this. So they were having these premonitions about the end of the earth, and there was lots of fire. So the giants then had conversation with each other, and they were kind of getting scared because they were all having the same premonitions. So they sent a letter to Noah, who is something like an academic, and he kind of looks at people's premonitions and says, yeah, you're going to get punished. This is happening. There'll be lots of fire. And so I'm kind of looking at, how did this turn to nuclear war? How did this fire actually happen? Because I don't think the gods would put nuclear, but I kind of feel like maybe the giants got to that point. So that's how my head's at the moment, because Jordan is an ancient nuclear site. So that's where it is. But it's interesting to see that the giants are like, shit, we weren't supposed to do it, but we did it. Now we're going to get punished. How are we going to get out of this? I'm like, oh my God, that's such a human reaction. It's so normal. Yeah.
That is. That's really cool.
Yeah.
This is a novel?
No, it's definitely an ancient, it's little passages, and then you get enough to kind of figure out what's going on. And so I'm writing a series, and it won't come out until 2022, called Seventh Civilization. And it looks at the planet today as there will be seven attempts at civilization before we're successful forever. And so we're looking at like carnage and catastrophes. I can't even say that word. And then and then like, the end of the world, and how do we bring civilization back, all sorts of stuff like that. And then what will happen so I'm kind of doing it in little sets, and this is my series 2-part to it. So I've done 1 and rewriting that, because you discover more things and have to start all over again. So yeah, that's where I will explore this story in fiction, and then kind of bring in all the other resources. But again, it's my lifelong series. It's my never-ending series, and it'll come out in 2022. So big one. Yes, but I gotta get out some more Reluctant Wizards before then. people are already like, when's the next one? I'm like, geez, wait, I'm working on it.
Is your intention, was 7 intentional because of what you were talking about earlier about the Indian culture and your fascination with that? Because 7 is a very, very marked and very important number in the Indian culture.
Yeah, so it is right through all cultures. No, 7, I don't even know where I came for that one, but every time I see something 7, I jump into that rabbit hole. Plato was on that. So the old witchcraft and the original.
The seventh son of the seventh son.
Yeah, there's all sorts of things with 7, and that's kind of like, I was like, this is an essential thing that I need to kind of look at and keep it going.
Yeah, the 7th seal.
Yeah, there was all sorts of stuff. I mean, we didn't even originally have 7 days of a week, but we've come down to 7 for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's just everything that's related back to 7. It's amazing.
It is, and it's a big number in Vegas too.
Well, I haven't been to Vegas yet, so yeah, I'll take you out on it. What are you reading?
If you go to a slot machine and get all 7s, you've hit the jackpot.
Oh, that's the ultimate win. Okay,
that's pretty close. Yeah.
Okay.
Most of those now. I mean, there's different ones now, but that used to be the pinnacle. Was all 7s across the board, but there's all kinds of different variations of that now where it's not 7s anymore. But
yeah. So, Joe, what are you reading?
Right now I am slogging through, and it's not because it's bad. It's because I'm a terrible reader. But I am really super enjoying this book. It's Moss and Clay by Rebecca Jonesy, and it's the first in her Mabsdale series, and it's so fascinating. But every time I stop to think about it, I stop myself from reading, and I need to just power through. I gotta stop. I have this bad habit. I do this with movies too, and TV shows.
Yeah.
I will, if I really, especially TV shows. This is why I never finish things series wise, because I will find, like, for example, I'll give you a good example. Dexter, the TV series Dexter, their season 4 of Dexter to me is the greatest season of any television show I've ever watched. And I will rewatch. There's 4 episodes in that season that I've rewatched probably 100 times, because every time I watch it, there's something different that I glean from it and gravitate for it. So I'm very much like that when I read and when I watch movies, especially movies, because that's kind of my thing and my craft. So I am very much about seeing how something like it's like watching a magic trick and pausing it to figure out how it was done, kind of thing, right? I kind of go through that. And with literature especially, I tend to really go back on a word or a phrase that captures me, and I kind of, either if I've never heard it before or if it's interesting, I'll look it up and try to see if there's an origin behind it or something more meaningful to it. And I kind of do a lot of that. And so I'll start and stop a lot. And that, of course, I only get so much time in my day, in my life, to read or watch something. So I'm usually going back a few pages because I want to get back into it. And so I have to go backwards to do that. And so it's just my weird brain and the way it works. I'm just so strange about that kind of thing. But
everyone has their quirk.
Yeah, but that's the thing that I've been doing a lot with this book, because there's so many interesting and intricate little things and fascinating little elements to it that I'm real. And she's way ahead. She's into like 8 or 9 now, and it's just like I really got to get through this book. I got to stop that because I want to get to 8 or 9 and see how these characters develop and everything, but. It's tough for me. It's kind of why I like poetry, because poetry lends itself to the opportunity to reread it and reread it and reread it. And it becomes kind of it's kind of like a song for me. That's also why I like music, is because I'll
Yeah.
listen to a song for a week straight, the same song over and over again, because it just captures me. And same with
Yeah.
poetry. I'll find a poem that I really, really love. There's a book, my favorite poetry book of all time is Bright Needles by Anis Sharshenko, and there is like several poems in that book that I will go to on a daily basis to reread, just to capture a mood or understand something about myself that
Yeah.
I didn't know going into it. And so those are the kind of things that I like to read. So that I'm really into this series, and I have so my to be read list is just ridiculous, and I've got to start powering through a lot of these. I wish that sometimes there was the Michael Bay of authors out there that I can just read like 60 of these books and throw away once I'm done with them, because like that's a Michael Bay movie for me. Like it's stupid fodder that I can get through in 5 minutes, because I'll fast forward through all the bullshit and just get to
Yeah.
the part that is interesting, and which is very little in Michael Bay movies. But I sometimes I wish that I had some indie author friends that were much more about the entertaining than physically engaging me, but they all do. So that's what I love about
Yeah.
indie authors is we're a thinking group, and
Yeah.
so we all like the same kind of things. So you know, it's when you find your tribe, it's just amazing when that happens. So I really
Right.
get into that. So
Oh,
I
that's
know
cool.
that was a
Yeah,
very
yeah.
pontificating answer and long answer, but yeah.
No, it's good. It's really good. I only done with poetry on and off, but I really got into Allen Ginsberg and the beat poetry. I really enjoy that. And the band 21 Pilots.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he does beat poetry as well. So he takes his lyrics and then he's walking through the streets and he just kind of talks it, but the way it does it, it's like, oh, I feel like it's a modern day version of Ginsberg's speak. And it's fantastic because he talks about raw emotions and just the craziness of life and things like that. Actually, I named one of my books after one of his songs, Heavy Dirty Soul, and I was writing the book. I was nearly finished it. I still didn't have a title. And I always have a cover for my book, never titles. Titles are hard for me. And the song came on the telly, and I just rewatched it over and over. And it was like, had the reincarnation. It was just perfect. I was like, oh my God, I've got the title. Everyone's like, Heavy Dirty Soul. Like, that doesn't sound right. I'm like, no, that's the book. So I put in the beginning of the book to say, thank you for the music and, like a little tribute to those two guys, because it was just it's what I needed to finish that book. And because everyone says they love reincarnation, they love all this stuff, but then you just don't see it in art. And and the kids are like, if you replay that song one more time, I'm gonna turn the TV off. I'm like, one more time, I just gotta do it one more time. Yeah, it was really good. Yeah, so it was perfect.
That's awesome. I love that. That's I do the same thing. It's
Yeah.
there's something magical about when, especially in music, for some reason, when they can connect to you, you feel like they're giving you a personal message, and it's so powerful when they do that. It's the one thing that I think separates an amateur musician from somebody who's going to be a musician. There's people who dabble on the guitar and mess around, or there's people who write songs and just mess around. But there's something magical when you connect to an audience member in music, especially. I mean, it's really special in literature because it's very rare, but it's super special in music because you feel like that person gets you and they're talking directly to you, and it's very interesting.
And I think they have to be very honest with themselves in order to get the right lyrics, because you listen to the pop songs and you can feel that.
Where'd she go?
Oh, you're very faint, Amanda.
Am I?
Yeah, you lost a little audio there. I was still hearing you, but it was very faint.
Oh, okay. I might have several children on iPads or something stealing all my internet. But I was saying about, the genuine, if you're not genuine in your writing and the writers are not genuine, then you don't feel it. And there's something really strange about this manufacturing pop music that is coming out in this whole world, and you think, wow, like they're talking about sex and talking about this and that, and it's just like, oh, it's just kind of like hits the beat and that's it, and it's like it's a perfect way. But there's something like when you actually sit down and you can hear these people genuinely put their feelings into words, that's when we go, oh my god, this is an amazing song. Mm-hmm. But when it's manufactured, you can really feel the manufactured part to it, and it feels robotic and weird, and and they're the songs that I find that they're crap when you first hear them, and then you end up liking them because they grow on you. You're like, but it's not real music. You're like, yeah. So I hate it when a song grows on me and then I like it. And I like those songs where they grab you for the first time.
Yeah, and it's hard to do that. That's a skill set that not a lot of people possess, to be quite frank. It does take, that's part of what music is known for, is repetitive nature, so that they can beat you with so that it'll capture you eventually. Even if you don't like it, you'll have a disdain for it, that it gets in your head. I mean, how many times have you had a song in your head that you didn't want in your head, right? Because you just kept hearing it and hearing it. That's what music does. It's this hypnotic idea behind it, but it's kind of this trick of the trade kind of idea. It's something that, as somebody who's worked in the music business, I know for a fact that what used to happen back in the day was airplay was so vital and important, because that was where you get the rotation. If you got into an 8-song rotation, your song was guaranteed to play 3 or 4 times during that entire day. So it was guaranteed that audience would hear it at least once, maybe even twice, and that's part of it's just part of the machine that used to exist. It doesn't exist anymore. But
in Australia it does. You can
oh
hear
yeah,
the same story, and they don't even change it up every day. It's the same thing, so you can click in at the right time each day, and you're gonna get the same bloody song. And you're like, oh, yeah. Thank God for streaming.
Yeah, right. I was gonna say, I mean, that would have killed me in the 80s, having to listen to the same Olivia Newton-John song over and over again. I would have probably
get your tights out and start dancing. Now we got TikToks, so it only lasts for 20 seconds. And then I say to my daughter, because my daughter's really big on TikTok, right? And she's like, let's compare stats today, Mum. I'm like, oh God. And everywhere we go, it's like a TikTok. I'm like, you know who else ticks? People with Tourette syndrome, like they're making it fashionable. It's like, stop, daughter. Yeah, it's like a competition. Like, who gets the biggest stats today? I'm like, you're right in your own game there, daughter. Bloody TikTok. It's changing our way. And so now, when we put the music on, my kids can only listen to 20 seconds of that song, and they're like, next. I'm like, no, there's a whole song.
I mean, you almost want to put them in a chair, tie them down, and have them listen to Stairway to Heaven all the way through.
Yeah. Well, we're lucky because my husband's a bit older than me, and we're only 7 years apart, but in the music world, that's significant. Yeah. So he has the Stairway to Heaven, he has all the Queen, he has all this stuff. And then I grew up in like the Britney Spears era, and so we've got like, the bit more bubbly stuff. So, and then we both love the indie world, so love Imagine Dragons and all sorts of stuff. And so we have like this really weird mix match of things. And since we've got Spotify, the kids explore. And so when we're in car trips, we're like, okay, I found this new song and they found this new song. So we all kind of have a new song to show each other. And then we say, okay, add that one to my favorites. And then we have a favorite list as well. So everyone's got their own favorite list. And it's great because they show us songs that they found from the 50s and the 60s and the 70s, which I would have never been exposed to. And I would have never thought that would be an interesting thing for them. But because they discovered it on their own, they're finding whole new worlds of music that, you know, would have been lost to time if we didn't have streaming.
That is so like that is a music fan, because that's how
Yeah.
I did it too. It was like my parents would drop me off at what was called Tower Records, and where I was, and I would spend the entire day there, and I would comb the backest of back catalogs, and I would go through it, and I would find the thing that nobody else has found, and I would
Yeah.
listen to it, and if I discovered gold, it was literally like discovering gold, and then it got shared around my circle, and then everybody was into it, and we
Yeah.
would trade back and forth. They would do the same thing my circle would, and it was just like we were discovering new music all over the place. Things, and then I'd find my dad listening to my tapes or putting on
Yeah.
my vinyls, because he had never heard anything like that before too, and
Yeah.
of course you're a product of your parents, so even if you're finding different things or new things, it's all based upon the thing that your parents first listened to with your parents. So
God, my mother was just the same track. You know, Ma Baker, constantly the same track. I know word for word. Like, my father was Pink Floyd, and it was always Dark Side of the Moon, always. And every time I see like a mug or something, I'm like, Dad, I keep buying him all this stuff. He goes, I've got too much. I'm like, it doesn't matter. I was invaded, but it was always the same thing over and over and over again, to the point where you have to pull away and you go, enough already. But I find that now with just being, there's more stuff around and there's more availability, and I dragged my kids up to the top of the mountains, like an hour's drive, for this secondhand bookstore. And because I cannot tell you what's on the bestseller list. Like, I have no interest whatsoever. I want to know what people are throwing out, what's in the garage sales, and the things that people forget about because they're like, oh, that's an old crappy book. And the treasures that I have found is amazing. And so if you find us in the bookstore, you'll have my kids on the floor reading, and they'll go and pick the brain of the person working there, and they're like, God, your kids ask the hardest questions. And I'm like, yeah, because they're trying to discover their own thing, because they know I've got my thing and what I'm doing, and they know that when eventually they'll get older. I've just told them, when especially with schooling and stuff, you don't have to accept what they're giving you. I mean, it might not apply to you, but just accept what the lesson is, and then you go, okay, take it, not. So I haven't really stressed. I'm not a very good modern day mum, I guess, because, you know, all the other mums are like, you must be an A grade student, you must be doing this. I'm like, just take whatever you think's relevant. So we are always out finding what interests them, and so they haven't. It's like food, you know. We go to a market and you get all these different, because we're multicultural, all these different countries and all these different cultures of food, and I'm like, okay, pick whatever you want. You might not like it today, you know, not to go back there tomorrow. And so they just test everything. That's awesome. It's all about discovering and making sure that and which is great for me, because every time I say, all right, I need to go to the bookstore, they're not going, oh, I don't want to go. And they're like, okay, we'll do this now. So they might find something that interests them.
So I grew up in a suburb of Los Angeles, and my father went to UCLA, so he's a UCLA alumni, and we would take these road trips on weekends to Westwood, which is where the UCLA campus is, and it's usually a 2 or 3 hour drive, because we would take the long road through the scenic areas and stuff like that. But on our way back down the beach strips, there's a used bookstore, and it doesn't exist anymore, which is sad, but it was called The Hobbit. And it's this giant bookstore. It was 3 stories, and literally it looked like somebody had been in the store and ran across the room and took all the books off the shelf and threw them on the ground, because people were picking up books and reading them and just, you know, putting them where they were. And it's so fantastic, because like you would dive into those piles like they were, you know, you know, there was kids who went to Chuck E. Cheese and dived into the ball pit. I dove into the book pit, and and I would go and I would come back with a book and read it, and we would just sit, like you said, we would be sitting on the floor reading books and enjoying that. It was so, I always look forward to that. Whenever we went out to Westwood, I knew we were going to go to the Hobbit, and so
Yeah.
I really, really relish that, and that's something that my father did for me very, very well. And so I think you're doing right by that.
I'm totally envious of you guys in your second-hand bookstores. Like, they're massive. Like, my co-writer Michelle, she lives in Tennessee, and I sent her a list of find me these books, because half of the things in Australia, like second-hand books, start at $7, and they're generally about $15. But if they know there's none in Australia, you can bet your ass they'll charge like minimum $35, $80 sometimes. So, I'm having to buy all this stuff from overseas. And my parents went to Vegas last year, and I gave them like a 4-page thing. I said, I don't care if you have to buy a second suitcase and throw out all your clothes. I need these books. And so they go to this guy, and they shows the list, and of course they're all like the weirdest books ever. And the guy's eyes lit up. He's like, oh, she needs this and she needs this. And I'm like, Mom, it wasn't on the list because I already own those books. So she come home with all these books. Half of them I already had. I was like, okay, maybe I can swap them with something else. But so I have a list, and if I can't get it here, which generally happens, I send it to my little person overseas, and then in return I send her children brand new books for Australian writers.
Cool. Nice.
Yeah, there's some really amazing ones that you just can't get there. So the kids are like, when's our next Aussie batch coming? But at the moment with COVID, the prices of shipping books is just terrible. So by the time the prices go back down, they're going to have like oodles of books because they're just constant collecting them. Yeah.
How you guys doing out there? Has there been a second wave?
No, so we're pretty clear. Like, we've been counting the days where we've had no confirmed cases. I think there was one today. They were talking about, because we're open the borders with New Zealand, and then we have one person who was confirmed. But in the grand scheme of things, it's pretty fantastic, and we don't really have a lot of deaths either. So the people who have it or had it, recovering really well. So, yes, life's back to normal.
I won't show you the stats of America then.
No. But we don't have the population either, so
True.
That's the thing. I think, like, we did do lockdown for a couple of weeks. Schools were out, and like, we don't do schools like you guys do, because there's a snow day and you're out. And we have bushfires like 2 k's away. The kids are still at school, so so for us to cancel school was a huge thing. So we would lock down, I think, about 5 or 6 weeks. They just did a blanket wide lockdown. After the 6 weeks, people were pretty fed up, and we just kind of broke it anyway. So, problem with Aussies, we're too laid back when it needs to come to rules, and we're like, police state, how dare you? We're going to do this anyway. There's nothing wrong with going to the park and the beach. And so, so there is like a lot of people who do that as well.
Are you guys wearing masks when you guys go out?
You'll see probably 1 in 100 people do that, even during the peak. Again, we didn't have a lot of masks available, so that kind of stopped us from getting masks to begin with. And then we were all like, well, not many people got it, so why do we have to start wearing masks anyway? So the mentality is not as bad as what it is in Europe. But again, it just depends on the suburb. So I live in a very small bubble suburb, and people like, what's coronavirus? We still did Halloween, we still did everything. But if you go out to like the little mini city that we have close by, everybody like does the 1.5, like, don't come near me type thing. And I forget that I have to do that too, because I'm so used to living in this bubble. So we've been pretty lucky, as in, we did have some cases locally. But maybe we don't have a strong strain like you guys.
Well, I was just thinking Australia might be the one place where Tom Hanks is hated because he brought it into your country.
Tom Hanks, yeah. See, the thing is, we don't take things seriously. So what we do is then we just make fun of people. It's like, how dare you? We're like, that's Tom Hanks.
we were all very that's when it really became real for us, when we found out that Tom Hanks was in Australia and he had COVID, and we were like, him and Rita Wilson had COVID. We were like, oh my god, Tom Hanks has COVID. Like
Yeah.
our national treasure. Australia, you better not fuck him up,
Yeah. I know, and then he went around to all of the television studios, and while it was positive, and then all of them were all isolated, trying to do the shows from home and stuff. And yeah, everyone just kind of is pretty easy about it. The internet keeps going down, and you can't get through phone calls and things like that. People are like, we'll just try tomorrow. So everyone just understands that it's been a problem. People are like, okay, 2021 is going to be better. And we just wrote off the whole year. But now we want to book things for 2021. We're like, why can't we book them now? We're ready to start the year. So I think we're a bit blasé in how lucky we are as well, because look at Italy, look at America. You guys probably going to hit that second wave pretty hard.
Yeah. Well, it's ridiculous. I mean, the talk of vaccine out here is like, so it's just like the talk, but it's like, I can just imagine you guys are like, oh, somebody's got COVID. I'll just put a prawn on the Barbie and have a Foster's and let's just hang out.
Yeah. That's right. COVID, let's have a COVID party. Yeah. It's bad. Everyone's like, it's a pandemic. Yes, it's a pandemic, but for Australia, we get more colds than anything, and so we have been lucky. If the borders were open, maybe it would be a different story, but we can't have these borders closed forever either. So that's why they're open with New Zealand, and hopefully they'll slowly open up a bit more, because Indonesia is suffering horrifically because Australia is what brings the money in. So you've got whole cities based on tourism that are now deserted. People are starving. There's no money coming in. It's a huge crime rate because they are in survival mode. And a lot of people don't realize that living mode and survival mode is totally different, because hostile. If people got something, they're going to take it because it will be a matter of life and death. And Indonesia has turned into that place. It's going to take a lot of adjustment to get them back into, because Australians are not willing to travel and Indonesia won't be on that list. So Indonesia needs help, big help, a lot of help. Not the government, the people on the ground. Yeah.
Richard, Daryl, do you guys have any questions or comments for Amanda?
I'm still waiting on my test results.
Did you get the stick up the nose?
That was before I had surgery in the beginning. That was goddamn painful as hell. And I'm not lying. I will testify. I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. I wouldn't wish that on Joe Biden.
I don't have a sinus. So I had 3 sinus operations before they took my sinus altogether. And when I heard it was a stick up the nose, I'm like, I'll isolate for the rest of my life before I have that thing go up my nose, because I get cameras put up my nose all the time to check. And I know what it's like. I know what it's like to have stints and everything. The nose is sensitive, and especially when they go all the way up, I'm like, no. My kids were forced to get tested, because here, you sneeze at school, you get tested. And they had to get it. And then the lady comes to me, she goes, your turn. I went, thank you. I said, if they come back positive, I'll just isolate. I'm not doing it. It's terrible. It's really terrible. There's better ways.
This new test that I took Monday was a throat swab, so it was a little easier.
Oh, yeah. You just get a gag.
Yeah. But basically tasted like a cotton ball for about 20 hours.
Yeah.
That's funny.
That sounds like fun.
Yeah, that's where I've spent my whole week in quarantine, just sitting here waiting.
Yep.
The worst part about it is the testing site I went to was a 24 to 48 hour testing site. So here it is, 5 days later.
Okay.
And we're waiting.
So is it 24? Oh, so it takes 24 hours for your tests to come back?
Well, yeah, it was supposed to be I went to one of the rapid sites so that I would get the results in 24 to 48 hours. So that we could figure out what was up, make sure that I was either positive or negative, if I needed to stay in quarantine, if I could go back to work and everything else. And here we are 5 days later and still nothing. I finally got a hold of the lab today. They said maybe they would, have them Monday, maybe Tuesday. So I was like, yeah, that's awesome.
Wow. Maybe they
Meanwhile,
just got inundated with too many people at one time.
well, that's the thing is we have had a huge influx here in upstate New York. Actually, my two counties, we had a handful of cases, but it wasn't, humongous, it based on other places in the nation, other places in the world. I mean, I think our max was like 280, 300 in Fulton County where I live.
Yeah. That's still a lot of numbers, though.
Oh yeah, it's a pretty good, it's a huge number for our county, definitely. But based on, 200,000-300,000 like in New York City or Albany or some of the bigger areas, larger areas, we're pretty remote out here, so
yeah,
it's a little bit more, it's a little bit more dense in population. So that's why, even though yes, 300 is a large number for our county, at the same time, it's not all that huge, and it's easier to isolate the issue.
Yeah.
But then, of course, then you've got the few that, end up being sick, go to work anyway because they're essential workers, and you got to go to work. And unfortunately, you run into those issues, and they're sick, and it passes on to the next, and the next thing you know, somebody's got something.
Yeah, and that's sad. It's really sad because, I was an essential worker right through the COVID period, the hard part. And I was delivering groceries for the local supermarket. And I'm not going to say their name to give them free publicity because they're not worth it. So it was hard because I'm watching the elderly people and the people with disabilities, people who are already isolated in society, then have this huge big fear factor. And one lady, she's in her 90s, she lives on her own, she wears back brace, telling me to put the groceries on the front step because I'm not allowed to come in, she'll get COVID and she'll die in this horrible world and all this. I'm like, okay, well, how are you going to get your groceries inside? And she's like, I'll figure it out, we'll be able to do it. And I'm like, actually, no, you can't, because you've got a back brace on, and if you bend over, you're going to end up in hospital. So it's having to navigate these fear factor that was just pumping into these people who were already isolated and scared and didn't it wasn't fear of the virus, it's fear of the community. And you got these people like me delivering her essential needs, her food and everything that she needed. And I can't come into her house because, she would potentially get COVID and I wouldn't know if I had it or not. So that was the scary thing, is just watching these poor, vulnerable people scared out of their lives to get food. And so I really navigated the situation. So pretty much I'm in the mountains, a lot of people don't lock their doors. It's very relaxed community, and they know when I'm coming. I just walk into the house and it's like, hello, it's me. So it was more like I just kind of pranced in, put the stuff in the kitchen and got out before they could say no, because they were at risk. And it's sad watching these people suffer heaps more than they need to, and then the fear of other people and the community. So that's the shit part about this whole virus, is that we don't hear about these stories and we don't know about them, because who's going to say that this 90-year-old lady who, and there's not just one of them, there were hundreds of them who are stuck in the house, do not leave the house, probably haven't left their house all year, And then the one person they get to interact, which was me, you know, they're fearful of. Where last year, you know, they were offering me to go to the toilet and have a cup of tea, and you know, so it was. That's the silent part of this pandemic, definitely. Yeah.
I just want to say, Amanda, it's been absolutely fascinating listening to you talk about this stuff. It's part of the world that we don't hear much about, and it's a different perspective. Like on fantasy, like I'm up in Canada, so even for us here, it's different than it is in the States for the marketing and everything. And then you guys are even more removed from that because you're completely on the other side of the world.
Yeah.
So it's fascinating just to hear a different perspective. I find right now.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask, what was the name of the series you were doing?
Oh, the one that will come out in 2 years?
Yeah.
That's called Seventh Civilization. So it's
Because it sounded really interesting. I do think I'll look into it when it comes out.
Oh, definitely. So the covers are getting made now with 2 artists. So I've got my main artist, Bruno Gomes. He's Brazilian and he does Photoshop and he's just amazing. So I call him my in-resident artist. And then I've hired another lady, she's New Zealander, Serena Dawson. She's one of my anthology authors, and she does art as well. And so we're just kind of like developing them. This is a really hard series because there's so much of the planet and all these different things. So the way I'm writing it is I have a character and he is, he'll have 10 books. It's like a television series. Then the next one I'll jump and it'll be a different character, different setting, different thing, jump again, and then jump again. So I actually kind of got into hypnosis in the last couple of months. And every researcher needs a primary research thing. So I've been using hypnosis and the things that I'm learning through that in the previous lives would then kind of like dive into that. So that's my primary research. And then all the ancient texts is my secondary. So yeah, so it's a massive one. And again, that will be my lifelong books, my lifelong series, because I have like planned 24 series on that one, and the 10 books each, 240 books. This is why I'm always in the computer writing, and I'm like, oh my god, I haven't updated my social media in like 5 days. I'm like, what's Instagram?
Oh wait.
I know, I've like got to come back to reality. Yeah, so thank you for showing interest. I'm working hard at it.
Are you wanted to ask Eric something? Are you going to be using your actual name, or are you going to with a pen name?
Oh, so I go under AA Warren for everything.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm actually. So Amanda is like Amanda Ann. But I find Amanda pretty boring, and Anne I've never used in my life, so it's just AA. And Amanda's actually my second name. So when I was a child, my parents used to call me by my nickname, and I learnt it quite late in life. So I still haven't kind of meshed with it. So yeah, I just stuck with AA Warren. It's just shorten it down. It's nice and neat. And when I find
still
myself...
your name.
Yeah, it's still my name.
Still your name, so it's easy to remember.
Sure.
And your signature doesn't really change.
Yes, that's right. And when I find with like I'm on events and things like that, I'm always like positioned first because it's the AA, and I was like, oh, how lucky was that? Yeah. Yeah.
I'm bookmarking your book to my wish list.
Oh, which one? So I have
The Reluctant Wizard, actually.
I have special copies, which is probably only best for people in Australia and New Zealand. Sorry, only because of postage right now. But I have a lot of books here, and so this is a special hardcover edition that I'm selling on my website, and it's You can get hardcover through Barnes and Noble, and it has like the straight spine, but this one's got the round spine. So it was
Nice.
Yeah. And so they come plastic sealed, unfortunately, but I didn't know that. I'll tell the printer next time, don't do that. It's not sustainable. So yeah, I got these, and hopefully I can get them out to everybody before Christmas. So everyone's contacted me like, I need copies. I'm like, just wait. So now they're here, they're ready to go. I just need to put something up on Facebook to say they're ready. So anyone from Australia, New Zealand, they're good to go for you. And I'm selling them at reduced rate, 25 plus postage.
That's a gorgeous cover.
Yeah, it's good. And book 2 has been photographed last year because that's actually my middle child, and I think it's got the plastic on. That's my middle child. He's my model. It's so much cheaper than hiring a model. And he's my victim. He's like, am I supposed to get paid for this? I'm like, yeah, I pay your rent. Like, no, I'll pay you Monday.
I feed you, and I clothe you, and I bathe you. What do you else?
I changed his life. So book 2 is same artist. This one's Necro. His name's Necro. He doesn't speak English, so I've only ever spoken to his agent. And he'll have the same sort of throne, except this side he'll be looking at himself dressed as a wizard, and that side he'll be dressed as himself looking as a warlock. Yeah. Ooh. So that's book 2, and it's nearly about to get made.
Hi, kids.
Hello.
Oh, there's the boss.
Shit.
How are you?
Tired as hell.
Oh, you're not kidding. Joe and I were just talking about ducking on off, get some sleep.
I don't realize how late it got to be. I'm sitting here dealing with rewriting the workshop for tomorrow after the laptop crash yesterday.
Oh, goodness.
Nothing like doing the work over a second time.
Well, worst case scenario, all you got to do is just kind of like pick up the book and go.
Well, I've got multiple older versions of it, but there's some updates and stuff. I'm just having to get into both it and the marketing one. So just having to dust them off, but it's aggravating because we're doing a book stream thing tomorrow from like 10:30 in the morning until 7 tomorrow night. So I'm going to be running that on one machine over here. And I was like, okay, I can run the workshop from this machine. No, I can't. So now I'm gonna have to run it off the Mac, and Sunday will be fine.
That's okay, because everything that we had figured out or thought we were going to do for LitCon Lounge just totally.
Did you hear about our morning, Jim?
A little bit, but it's like I say, it pretty much everything has shit the bed today. I was getting it's Friday the 13th. I mean, it must be like Mercury's and Gatorade and doing tequila shots and
spun around the table a few times, and
Aries is table dancing with Hades and
and Athena can't get her ass out of the toilet.
Yeah, I mean it's just so yeah. I mean, and so a couple of people are pinging me going, my website's not coming up, or one of my clients was pinging me tonight going, my website's not working. It's not coming up. And she's throwing these errors. I'm like, what the hell? So I go looking, and you have to understand, this is somebody who's had multiple breaches. And I'm like, what the hell's happened now? And I'm pulling it up, and I'm like, it's fine. I just did some security patches on it earlier today. And that's what had me worried, was like, something fuck up. No, she's using Chrome and problems with Chrome.
Was acting weird yesterday. From what
Chrome is acting weird today, so I'm like, it's fine. It's fine.
I have no problem with Chrome. I don't know what people are talking about, but whatever. I don't know. Maybe I escaped the weirdness. I don't know, but I didn't have any problems.
It's professional courtesy. It doesn't want to.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Well, I do have a Pixel phone, so maybe I'm like one of the protected few. I don't know. You know, because everything I do runs through Google on my phone. This is why I got this phone. As I was telling Daryl earlier tonight, the one thing that I think should be adopted on PCs that are on phones right now is the fingerprint protection, so I don't have to remember a goddamn password. I can just use my thumb, which is the greatest fucking thing I've ever experienced in my life. And so
Until I show you how easy that is to crack.
I don't care. I don't go ahead. Take all my shit. I don't give a shit. It's better than me trying to remember 65 passwords. All right. So, you know, that's,
I
and
remember one now.
well, I'm telling you should see my emails. It's like every time I'm going into a site, reset my password, reset. I have like 40 emails about resetting my passwords because I don't remember them at all.
That's
I even have a keep on my phone that I wrote them down on, and apparently I didn't type them correctly, or I didn't, you know, because my fat ass fingers. So I probably missed a capital letter somewhere, and you know, screwed that up. But it's just like,
This is what password lockers are for.
well, you know, those are pretty hackable too, from what I understand.
Everything's hackable.
Yeah, true. But maybe I should invest in that. I don't know. But I just, then there's the websites that are really pretentious about it. Oh, you used that password 3 passwords ago. You can't use that same one. And you can't just put an exclamation point on it so you can remember what the fuck it was the first time. No, you already used that one. Oh, you used the word "the" in that password the 64 times ago. So guess what? You can't use that word, even though it's in every other goddamn password I have, right? So you know, it's just like, come on.
Been there.
For things, I mean, we're talking about things logging in that nobody would ever log into or hack from me ever, you know, and I have to log into it. You know, it's just like, come on. Don't be ridiculous, you know.
Or
Yeah,
they
they
make you redo it every 12 weeks. You have to come up with a new password every single time. And
Bastards.
Oh yeah, no, I can't stand it. The other one is that damn reCAPTCHA shit. Pick the fire hydrants, and then you pick 3, and it's like, wait, you missed one. Next,
That's what I had
Then
to
you
do
gotta
on.
pick the traffic lights, and then to pick the buses, and then oh my.
I
I
know
had to
if
do
it,
that on Discord this morning, which was pissing me off because there was the crosswalk one, and there was literally a sliver of white paint in the one corner, and I kept going, "Where the fuck is the other one? I don't see it. I don't see the one with the goddamn crosswalk in it. So what the fuck are you doing to me, Discord? Stop it!"
yeah, the platforms that actually should be that you're like, fuck, I don't care if somebody hacks this shit. Yeah, that's the ones that are,
Yeah, those are the ones that are the heaviest hitters for you. You know, I mean, I do, and I also do like the important ones, like my bank and my email. I change every 3 to 4 weeks. I do that just as habit. But those are the ones I have. Number one, I have the thumb notification for my phone, and I usually do pretty much everything from my phone. You know, I maybe shouldn't have said that on air, but you know, but you know, those I change.
let's see, Joe Compton's phone number is
That's
Changing
funny.
my passwords right now, Jim Nettles.
Oh shit, that's funny.
But yeah, so I mean, what a bunch of crap. You know, it's just like, yeah, what are you doing to me, world? You know, I have enough fucking problems. Now I gotta remember 62 passwords. You know,
exactly.
you don't want to know, you don't want to see the password lockers I use.
You're right. I don't. You know, and you know, Goodreads can go fuck itself because I'll never log into that
Oh,
again.
fuck them.
You know,
So what's with Goodreads? I can't get into that.
it's terrible.
Is that a problem for everyone, or I thought it was just me? Because I've reset that password 7,000 times, and it still says I haven't done it.
I don't understand why you can't use your Amazon password. They're fucking Amazon. Why can't I just use my Amazon password? You know.
Yeah.
Probably
Why do I
because
have
there's
to
somebody
have a
sitting
different
in IT that's still pissed off about Goodreads being bought by Amazon because they were one of the first people there and they didn't get caught in the buyout. So they're still just pissed.
It's such a worthless site. I'm sorry. To anybody who loves it,
I fucking hate. I've hated Goodreads since the first time I ever fucking logged on to it.
It's been antiquated since 1987. You know, I don't think they've changed a fucking thing since 1987. To be quite honest.
They,
Oh my
they did
God.
buy out
Hell no.
Safari.
No,
Remember?
hell no. They ain't checked. They ain't done shit.
Oh, it's buggy as all hell. Yeah. And do you remember Safari?
Sure.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was my platform. I love that platform, and they at Goodreads brought that out. Yeah, and then I had to go to Goodreads. Not by
Okay,
choice.
I'm getting into All Author. All Author is pretty cool.
I haven't tried that one.
I've been on there. I haven't been on there in a long time. I do have a profile. I just haven't been on there in a while. Hell, I don't even remember my password.
Yeah, and they're fantastic. They send me emails all the time, and they can do interview. I never even like bug them or anything. They just, hey, you're up for this and you're up for that. I was like, okay. I really love them. It's a fantastic thing, and you've got all these resources as well. It's just attached for free.
I do like the free resources, the emails and stuff they send me, because I do get a lot of information out of it.
Yeah, fantastic.
Well, I've spent a good chunk of the evening building the new back end for Continual and all the new profile shit. So it's been.
You look like Doc Holliday stuck his hand in a microwave. That's what you look like right now. You're pretty beat up, brother.
Yeah, well, not only that, but shit, I've got to get my hair cut because it's like I now have hit the.
I know. I'm with you on that one.
Dude, my hair has not been cut since I think December of last year. My hair has never been this long in my life.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Own it. Go for the shoulder length.
Look, I'm.
Doesn't have to be December every year.
I mean, I'm like ready to go get the dog's clippers and just buzz my damn head.
Can you imagine?
Well, I mean, usually it stays pretty close to high and tight anyway.
Yeah.
You know, and now that I've got all the fucking gray hair, I'm like,
yeah.
You know, I look like Doc Brown. I get up in the morning, it's like I look like Doc Brown and Einstein had a love child on top of a Tesla coil.
You could land a plane on your forehead, brother. So
Thanks, appreciate that. You too can kiss my ass, motherfucker. Hi, Amanda.
Hi. Well, hairdressers not essential workers where you are?
I don't like getting my hair cut anyway. I could go and get it done, but pretty much I've been hiding up in the mountains since March. I got to go to Charlotte next week.
The sides are thicker than hell.
Well, now we know what Homer Simpson looks like in person.
I can blind your ass with the top.
No kidding.
Why do you think I bought this hat?
I thought it was just because it made you look stylish in '85.
Oh, well, I thought it made me look like an author.
You just wanted to look like Joe Compton. Well, you know, you've seen my author hat that's beat to shit. I mean,
now you really look like Doc Brown.
Yeah, he does.
I mean, the only time I wear this is out in the middle of the athletics field, pretty much. So I mean, I get rained on, I get everything else. I mean, I don't care. It's, you know, I look like I've been on the damn range all day.
Yeah.
But it does its job.
He looks like he's been in the Outback, huh, Amanda?
Well, you know, I've got the other one here. I mean,
Hasn't got the coils that come down though.
if I have to put on a hat,
Now you.
I will wear.
I won't even say it. I'm not. Gonna,
I will wear my Empire.
I'm not going to even be tempted by that one.
Well, see, I usually will wear that one. I've got a t-shirt, or not t-shirt, a shirt that I cracked a joke at Dragon Con, I don't know, 10 years ago or more with my sister. And I said, you know, we all ought to do up, you know, Klingon shirts, you know, for Camp Kittimer, like we're the camp counselors. I said, but I want to be the Batleth instructor. So I have a shirt she embroidered for me with the big, you know, it's got the Klingon Rising Sun logo. Count Kittimer, Batleth instructor. So I'll wear that. So if I need something else and I'm just being, especially if I'm going to go do like a Star Trek panel or something like that, I'll put that on and go. And I mean, like, oh shit, I just went blank. Harry Kim off of Voyager, who's the track director. He'll look at me and just shake his head every time. Garrett Wang, I don't know why I couldn't remember his damn name. But yeah, he'll look at me every time and just shake his head, go, "You're so wrong."
It's the Dragon Con's a different animal altogether, though.
I don't know. We're already having conversations about Con Carolinas, and is it not?
Really?
Oh yeah.
I would think you guys would wait a little bit. I know that San Diego's waiting a bit. Right
Oh,
now.
I mean, the decision's not going to be made till March or April, but
Well, San Diego's right around the time that the vaccine is supposed to be coming out, and so they're thinking that they may still put it on. So they may be the first one out the gate, is what they're thinking, and I don't agree with that. I don't think that's going to happen.
there, even if it rolls out, even if, and I will tell you, because they're talking about the 90% efficacy, but the 90% efficacy is based off of a very small sample size and based off of people who are healthy. It does not address people with pre-existing conditions. It doesn't so if you look at the fine print, much like with any vaccine, now granted, there's at least 5 of them that are pretty close in development. And a couple of them, including that one, are not off the fast track program. So that's a little better, but I'm not.
Even still, even if every person got indoctrinated and vaccinated and by a large measure that happens, nobody's gonna want to go to Sandy fucking Ego on a last minute trip and spend $15,000 to not only fly, but because the airports are going to explode at that moment.
Yeah.
And to book a hotel, I mean, come on, if you're doing that at the last minute, San Diego's going to gouge you to death. They know, they'll smell it, and there's not going to be a lot of people who are going to do that.
No.
I think I've heard this awful rumor. I don't know if you've heard this one, but I've heard that San Diego plans, if they run a con and you do not attend, you lose your spot and you lose your money, that you're not able to transfer it over to 2022, which is a terrible, terrible fodder. I don't understand that at all. That is, you're already a dying con. What are you doing?
Well, you got to remember, the majority of their money comes in from corporate sponsorships, which they're already taking a hit on.
No, but one fucking Disney panel pays for all of that, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, seriously.
Well, they've spent. Here's the problem. Because I went to San Diego. I went to San Diego the first couple of years I was out there at the new convention center because I was out there working. So I mean, it was easy to just go. But that was before. That was when they were just really getting the big ramp up.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a little bit like Dragon, because I mean, when Dragon was 30,000 people, 10 years ago, their budget was 5 hotels and managing that and handling everything. Logistically, now you're talking 90,000 people across, really 7 host hotels plus all of downtown Atlanta, plus the America's Mart, plus. So the logistics there, I mean, to cancel an event
about a world marketplace that's going to make its way in there, and who knows if any of them have been vaccinated. I mean that's the worst case scenario, but you're also talking about people who spend not just that's the one thing they do that week, but then they go to Disneyland the next week, they go to fucking Knott's Berry Farm, they spend the Universal Studios, they do the whole touristy thing for 3 weeks. So it's going to be awful to try and get out there at that time.
Well, I really think that, I mean, like, because SDCC, because they are a for-profit company, I mean, so is Dragon, but they're a for-profit company that is now largely owned by, I mean, they don't talk about it much, but it's largely now owned by several, the major studios and some of the production arms behind that. I mean, they may as well own it for all
Yeah.
practical purposes. Well, all of them have now taken a massive hit for the last year.
Yeah.
You've got all the new films that are on hold, plus all the stuff that just isn't being done. Yeah, and
Yeah.
you've got to
But
figure
there's a fundamental difference between Dragon and San Diego, and that's Dragon has a built-in audience.
Yes.
Dragon's Atlanta based, so the Atlanta community is big in that area, and I think and in Atlanta is close to where you live and close to where there's driving distances for that. San Diego is down at the bottom of the fucking ocean, and people, and the people that go there are the people that have to fly there.
You're not, I mean, you're flying to get to San Diego.
Yeah.
Atlanta, I'm going to say easily out of the 90,000 people, 50,000 of those are within driving distance.
Yeah.
60,000 are within easy driving distance. And you got another chunk of those that are, within 8 to 10 hours of driving.
And San Diego's really, isn't San Diego, I mean, I have not been yet, so I don't know, but is San Diego one of those one and dones? You've been there, you've done it kind of thing, where Dragon Con is kind of like has a built-in audience that's been there from the beginning and it's kind of goes every year kind of thing, right?
Well, I mean, when I went, and I mean, granted, that's been a long time ago, but it was very commercial even then. I know people that do it every year because it's the big convention, and but most of the people I know that go to it, it's like going to E3. You're going because you want to see what the latest stuff is being rolled out commercially. You're there because you're trying to cut commercial deals.
Yeah.
You're there. I mean, a lot of the people I know
which is pretty much all that's done off site anyway. It's not even during the con, right? I mean, that's usually done in the hotel and the bar and
it's like any other convention. I mean, like I say, a lot of the people I know that go, but I mean, even the people that are just going, you're going for the commercial experience. You're going versus Dragon is a 5-day party.
Yeah.
And I mean, SDCC, while there's the party and there's the hotels and all the rest of that, it's a very different experience. Even now from the friends of mine I know that go, I mean, the things that happen in the bar there and the deals and stuff that happen. Now, I will tell you, if you really want to cut the studio deals, it's much more helpful to be there. But Dragon, you can cut. So,
yeah.
Do you see him going virtual?
Well, that's what San Diego did this year, and they said it was a mitigated disaster, is what they called it.
So. Yeah, I mean, they lost their ass on it because they ran it horribly. I mean,
Dragon Con not so much. Dragon Con actually embraced it, I thought.
Yeah, and they ran it in a way that sort of spread the risk, and they put a lot of the ownership. I mean, I was, there was a bunch of the track directors that all knew what we'd been doing. That it was like, here's our playbook, here's what we're doing.
Yeah.
And they, and Dragon already had a lot of the infrastructure in place to be able to charge and have and do that. So I mean, for them, it was just they put more of the content online. And what you see now is Dragon has embraced it to where more people are doing their own thing now year round, like Fantasy Track, talking to Seska. And
I had heard, and I had just heard this, I did not see it for myself. And I'm not going to name the actor that was involved in this because I don't want to do that because I don't think that's appropriate. But I had heard that there was an actor who could not quite figure out Zoom, got very upset. He was on the whole time while this was going on, cursing and yelling and throwing things. And then he turned off his camera and did the entire panel without his face there. And people were thinking that it wasn't him. So that's the kind of thing I heard came out of San Diego.
I didn't hear that, but I can absolutely believe it. I mean, realistically, if you look, the people that do Dragon are there because they want to be there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's obviously the people that are there because they're told their publicist is like, you will be there because it's the other big, it's one of the big three.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, even when you have William Shatner roaming the halls looking for parties, you're in the right place.
Yeah. I mean, some of the people I've hung out with in room parties, it's just hysterical. You're like, how the hell did I wind up? Well, hell, even the bar.
Yeah, right. We're making Amanda jealous because Amanda doesn't have that opportunities.
Where are you at?
I'm in Sydney.
You're in
So,
Sydney?
Yeah. We have Comic-Con, but it's probably like a 2% compared to what you have. And we have Supernova. It's very commercialized. You can buy things, you can see actors, and you can pay for autographs with them, but that's it.
Well,
then it goes through the weekends at most.
So it's one of my goals to come down and do OzCon.
Oz Comic Con, yeah. I'm still haven't not heard from them. I applied about a year ago, and I know a few people who got in, and I keep like, come on, because that one you have to apply for. Yeah, I think they missed my.
Well, my sister got guest status at OzCon twice, so Red Hat flew her down there twice to go be a speaker. But I'm like, yeah, I need to pull that off. I need an excuse to go to Australia.
Oh yeah, it's nice.
And of course, I'm not sure. I get down there, like, yep, this is where I'm staying. Screw you.
We learned tonight, Mr. Nettles, that it's not shrimp on the Barbie, it's prawn on the Barbie. So make sure you have the right nomenclature.
Well, I did do shrimp scampi tonight for dinner.
Damn, I'm jealous.
Nice.
I can make it in 12 hours.
It took me about 15 minutes to do.
No, I'm saying I can make it to your house in 12.
Yeah, I won't be making that tomorrow. I'm not sure what I'll be cooking tomorrow. I may be throwing. I may throw
the cabin. That's probably the more guarded secret than NORAD. Yeah.
Let's just put it this way. If I can see you through the sniper scope, you're too close to the house.
You might or might not make it.
Right.
Oh no, you'll be there for dinner one way or the other.
You might be there, or
We'll be having you for dinner.
Yeah, I get it.
That's funny.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I actually got to. We're going to be in Charlotte for the week next week, but got a couple of things to do down there, and then I'm pretty sure I won't be heading back down from here until like we go to my sister's house for Christmas. I don't know. I might run to the house one time in there. I mean, shit, we got almost we got at least 5 inches of rain yesterday in Charlotte.
Yeah.
Bad flooding. Apparently it knocked out power and internet and stuff at the house for a good while. So I don't know when I'm gonna discover when we get back Sunday, but so I just wanted to pop in for a couple minutes to see if you kids were still partying it up.
I'm about to jet myself, guys. I got too much going on, but I will be back tomorrow. You're all welcome to hang out with me. I will almost try to pull a 24s on tomorrow. So, but we'll see how that goes. But
well,
send sugar.
But yeah, I'm trying to get all my stuff done so I can be as present as possible Saturday and Sunday. So, but I need to go and do that. So, Amanda, it was absolutely an awesome pleasure talking to you.
Thank you, Joe. Thanks for having me, guys.
This is good to meet you. I know I popped in and just cause trouble and leave.
It was okay to talk to you too, Jim.
Yeah, well, kiss my ass.
It was nice
Love
to
you
see
too.
you, though. I missed you today. I was wondering where you were all day long. I kept bugging Richard, going, "Get him in here, get him in here."
Yeah, I was on calls until like 7:00, and then.
Well, you got a lot of stuff going on at Continual this weekend too, right?
We've got the all day thing going on tomorrow, and I'm trying to finish getting everything ready for it. I'm doing a book launch thing tomorrow as a part of that. I think at 5 to 6. But for the most part, most of the day, I'm just going to be watching it run, clicking let people in as they swap in and out. And I'm trying to make sure I've got somebody covering me for those couple of hours. But, and yes, Amanda, you should come join us at Continual as well.
Sounds good. You can send me the link and I'll jump in.
Because we're doing shit 24/7. Hang on a minute. I will send you the Facebook group right now because that's the easiest thing to do. That is not what I want to save right now.
There it is.
Yeah, they got some international stuff they're going to be doing, Amanda. So.
Yeah, we're actually working on. So yeah, we're actually working on some new international stuff. So yes, you'll have to stay in touch and come play.
Yes, good. I can bring a load of Aussies with me.
That would be. That is absolutely fantastic because I mean, there's a few I know down there. But absolutely. So I mean, please share this out. Invite folks and whatnot. Hang on a minute. So if you go ahead and join now, I'll even approve you right now while we're sitting here. Yeah, right now we actually have launched 2 more new shows this month. We launched the comics track. We launched now an hour with, which is like our pillars panel. We launched the short reads last month. So that means we're now up to 7 programs we're running.
Yeah, you and I have got to get together at one of these points and coordinate.
Well, that's what I want to do is talk about starting to integrate some stuff, or at least do some crossover stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
I like to say, especially like the film track we've been talking about. If we do a co-branded film track, I think that would be a lot of fun because there's a lot of people both of us have and know.
Yeah. Cool, man.
So
good. I'm there.
I got to get over there and start checking some stuff out. I got to figure out what I got to do is catch one of your lives when you go live. It happens to me on Joe's too, and I don't know why, because I'm supposed to get notifications from Go Indie Now. But, I don't know why I miss them. But I got to get it set up so that I get a notification when you guys go live so I can catch live stuff.
I can tag you if you want. I hate doing that, but I can if you want.
Oh,
you should be doing that.
You're more than welcome to tag me in that stuff because that way I can catch it. I mean, I might, sometimes the daytime stuff that you post, I'm at work, but some of the stuff you do at night, as long as it's Tuesday through Friday, I'd catch it.
Cool. Awesome.
And that way I can, because I like coming in and watching the stuff, but I don't always know exactly what time it's going to start or be posted or go live or anything. And then I get doing something and then I sit down and it's like, Joe Compton was live 3 hours ago. Son of a bitch.
Yeah.
I just get the message from Joe going, "Hey, do you have a life?" We know you don't, so come on over.
Well, when I
love you so much, brother.
I am. Yeah.
Welcome to the party, Amanda.
Thank you.
Let Phoebe know that I might drop in at like 1 or 2 in the morning if she's around. So
will do. I'll go over and hit her. Yeah, she's supposed to go live. As soon as she gets up, she's going to give it a try.
Cool.
Yeah, we're actually trying. It's supposed to start this weekend, and we may actually run some BarCon tomorrow night in parallel. So maybe we'll be raiding each other's bars.
Cool. That'd be awesome.
I don't know how many. Like I say, since we just launched the Discord server this week, I don't know how big a party it'll be at that point. But since everybody's going to have their own shops and stuff going in the server all day long, we might keep some stuff rolling over. But as we start, I can
tell you what. I don't know if you noticed what we did. We raided one of our panels. We muted each other and shut our cameras off, and we screen shared through Zoom, screen shared the fantasy panel and loaded it on YouTube.
See, there's one of those things you need to know about continual. In the tech world, I am God. I am Zeus. I will fuck you up and turn you. I might let some other people play. I have made a number of other people mods and given them some admin rights and shit like that. Hell no. I'm God. Boom. mostly because I don't trust any of them I barely trust them to be admins, or barely trust them to be mods.
That's funny.
Oh,
All right, guys. Well, have a wonderful rest of your evenings, and I will see you all very soon.
night, kids.
All
I
right.
got two more things to build. I'm gonna look at this one more damn time, then I'm gonna go to bed and get at least 4 hours of sleep.
I'm going to go to bed and get a few hours of sleep myself because I have my thing tomorrow and I want to be well rested for it because I want to do it right. It's my first workshop I've ever taught. So
Hell
luck
half
is-
frozen over.
I'm going to need all the luck I can get.
Shit, I don't ever do anything but talk. Amanda, lovely to meet you.
You too. And you too as well. Thanks, guys.
See y'all later.
Absolutely. Very nice to meet you, Amanda.
Oh, you too. Thank you. Bye.
Night, kids.
Have a good night.